Reborn in the college entrance exam hall, I desperately ran outside, because I knew, in just 2 hours, the apocalypse would arrive. In my previous life, I fought through hordes of zombies to return home, only for my father to knock me unconscious and sell me to the neighbors in exchange for food. Evelina, be obedient, your aunt is still carrying your little brother in her belly. In the end, unable to bear the humiliation, I struggled and jumped off the balcony. At the last moment before consciousness faded, I heard my stepmother touching her belly and complaining to my father, wasn't it just asking her to sleep with someone for one night? Can't even handle such a small thing, what a worthless burden. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the time before the apocalypse. Hey, classmate, it's not time to hand in the test yet. The invigilator was stunned and quickly came over. But I ignored them, clutching my stomach as I ran out. I can't hold it in anymore, teacher. The classroom immediately erupted into chaos. Opal laughed exaggeratedly. She's the perennial last place student in our class, probably couldn't come up with an answer and was too ashamed to stay. Hearing this, I paused my movements. Once upon a time, Opal's grades couldn't compare to mine, just because I scored several dozen points higher than her on the final exam. She threw a tantrum at home, while my dad was away. My stepmother Marigold secretly pinched my flesh. The more I cried, the harder she pinched, until one time, I couldn't hold it in and told my dad, only to be tearfully framed by Marigold, who claimed I was stealing money from home and she was just disciplining me. Later, she cried again about how hard it is to be a stepmother and even threatened to divorce. My dad got a headache from the noise and simply gave me a slap. Since then, I've become much more silent at home. Marigold kept finding new ways to make me work, yet spent a fortune sending her own daughter to cram school. As a result, the gap between me and Opal grew wider and wider. At this thought, I instinctively glanced back at Opal. Her mocking smile still lingered on her face, with a gleam of triumph in her eyes. For the last time, let this be your final moment of triumph. I took a deep breath and then rushed out of the examination hall without hesitation. 2. To maintain order in the examination hall. The invigilator had no choice but to let me leave with a stern face. As soon as I left the classroom, I immediately started running. There were only 2 hours left before the apocalypse would arrive. In my past life, to get food for Marigold and her daughter, my father personally knocked me unconscious and sold me to the neighbor downstairs. With my hands tied behind my back, I could only kneel on the ground begging desperately. But my father turned a deaf ear. His eyes fixed only on the food in the neighbor's hands. Only 2 packs of instant noodles for one night. No way, she's a virgin maiden. It's gotta be at least 5 packs. Don't kid me, what's a virgin maiden worth? There's an internet celebrity downstairs. Just offer food and she'll sleep with anyone. Take it or leave it. 2 packs of instant noodles at most. The two quickly reached an agreement. Like livestock, I was led away by a rope. Hearing my father's utterly cold voice, Evelina, be obedient, your aunt is still carrying your little brother in her womb. That night, I endured endless humiliation in the darkness, my tears soaking the worn-out floor. But being sold, once it happens the first time, there will inevitably be a second, a third, especially after returning home, only to face endless disdain and verbal abuse. Marigold and her daughter ate the food obtained by trading me while mocking me. In the end, unable to bear the humiliation, I struggled and jumped off the balcony, looking at my broken body below. My father frowned in disgust. What a waste of raising you all these years. You can't even do such a small thing right. Opal chimed in agreement, while Marigold even spat downstairs, calling me a worthless burden. The moment my soul floated in the air, I clearly realized I was wrong, and terribly wrong at that. To think I could use my own life to provoke guilt in those scumbags. 3. The moment I stepped out of the examination hall, I let out a long sigh of relief and pulled out a jade pendant from inside my clothes. No one knew that this jade pendant, which looked like it was made of plastic, would actually be a space. Unfortunately, in my previous life, I discovered the space too late. Even with money, I couldn't buy any supplies. I clenched the jade pendant tightly, walking out while familiarizing myself with how to use the space. The space measures 10 meters in length, 8 meters in width, and 3 meters in height, about the size of a classroom. Besides its storage function, time stands still inside. This means whatever you put in remains exactly the same when taken out. Thinking of this, I quickly called the restaurant owner I usually order from: sweet and sour pork, crispy fried pork, twice cooked pork, spicy chicken, fish-flavored shredded pork, braised pork belly, sweet and sour fish fillets, 20 portions of each. My phone's balance quickly ran low. Gritting my teeth, I borrowed another few $1,000s from various online lenders. First, I ordered 30 barrels of drinking water from the water station. As for the address, for safety reasons, I directly wrote down the underground parking garage. While the shop owner was preparing meals, I went into a nearby outdoor supplies store and purchased a wilderness survival kit. Price, $19.98. Although the price is a bit high, it's definitely worth it. It includes not only outdoor equipment like tents, emergency blankets, power banks, flashlights, radios, first aid kits, and solar panels, but also provides 2 large buckets of compressed biscuits. I first went to the restaurant to pick up the pre-ordered boxed meal, then quickened my pace and entered a nearby supermarket. Rice, flour, cooking oil, various condiments, mineral water, self-heating hot pot, 8 treasure porridge, ham sausages, cup noodles, pure fruit juice drinks, paper towels, sanitary pads, toothpaste and toothbrushes, change of clothes, portable gas stoves. After all this effort, my legs were trembling with exhaustion, but I couldn't afford to relax, my mind completely focused on checking for any missing essential items. With the apocalypse cutting off water and electricity, forget about taking showers. I threw dozens of wet wipes into the shopping cart in one go, while passing by the seasoning aisle. I happened to catch a promotion on hot pot soup bases. I swallowed my saliva and grabbed 20 bags of each flavor, and of course, couldn't leave out the dipping sauces of various tastes. Around noon, my phone rang. It was my dad, Corbin. Probably came to demand an explanation after finding out I ran away from the exam hall. To avoid wasting time, I directly set my phone to silent mode. Just then, a video notification popped up on my phone. A man's arm appeared to have been bitten by something, with blood trailing all the way, yet he seemed completely unaware, lunging straight toward a nearby pedestrian, biting, gnawing. A piercing shriek rang out. My hand trembled, nearly dropping my phone. Soon, the video was taken down. I tried searching for the term zombie again, but it was flagged as a blocked keyword. Clearly, the zombie virus has already emerged. However, to avoid causing public panic, the authorities are still suppressing information about it. I took a deep breath and raised my hand to hail a taxi. Excuse me, to the nearest farmer's market, please. It wasn't even off work hours yet, so the market was quiet and deserted. With my head lowered, I pulled out a prepared nylon bag from my space and began sweeping through the goods: cabbage, potatoes, onions, corn, sweet potatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, tomatoes. Time was tight, so there was no chance to carefully select. I just asked the vendor to weigh out 20 G of each. Right next to the vegetable stall was a vendor selling free-range eggs. The price was a few yuan more expensive than regular eggs. I asked the boss to help me pack 2 large boxes. The same goes for various common fruits. Among them, we specifically purchased 10 boxes of bananas. The vendors at the farmer's market all looked at me with curious eyes. I pulled my mask up and rushed towards the fresh produce section again. Boss, give me 20 pounds each of your spare ribs, pork belly, tenderloin, as well as beef and lamb. The butcher widened his eyes, looking me up and down. Young lady, do you run a restaurant at home? Buying so much? I nodded vaguely and quickly pulled out my phone to make the payment. The boss couldn't stop grinning when he saw the money hit the account, immediately getting to work, seeing the cold glint of the knives on the cutting board. An idea struck me. Boss, do you sell these knives? The boss frowned. I quickly held up 2 fingers. I'm willing to pay $200. Time passed minute by minute. By the time we left the farmer's market, I was already drenched in sweat without realizing it. I looked up at the sky, dark and gloomy, as if foretelling the impending doom. The phone display showed that there were less than 10 minutes left until the complete outbreak of the previous world's apocalypse. I quickly stopped a taxi to save time. Driver, step on it. I'm in a hurry. The taxi driver grumbled discontentedly. It's rush hour right now. We're already going as fast as possible. At that moment, a screeching brake sound suddenly came from the intersection ahead. A car lost control and crashed into the roadside guardrail, its front severely deformed. What was even more terrifying was that after the person inside climbed out, they suddenly lunged at pedestrians without warning. Screams quickly erupted from the crowd. Oh my God, what's wrong with this person? Call the police quickly. I watched helplessly as a girl, after being bitten, convulsed, and then crawled back up. From infection to mutation, it took only a few dozen seconds. The taxi driver turned pale with fear, his hands trembling on the steering wheel. Chaos had already broken out among the vehicles on the road, with sounds of screeching brakes and people's screams everywhere. Driver, don't stop, just drive through. The driver gave me a terrified glance. You're crazy. I took a deep breath, flicked my wrist, and pulled out the boning knife from thin air, swiftly pressing it against the driver's neck. Drive now. The driver looked on the verge of tears. I'll do as you say, just keep that thing away from me. With a stomp on the accelerator, the taxi charged straight toward the zombies. With a bang, the zombie was sent flying and crashed heavily onto the ground, but the noise caught the attention of more zombies. The taxi struggled to move forward through the chaotic streets. Finally, after driving for over 10 minutes, it smoothly turned into a quiet alley, after dropping me off at the residential area entrance, the driver didn't even ask for payment, just stepped on the gas and drove away immediately. Guard Dorian was playing with his phone and seemed confused when he saw me running over. "Isn't it college entrance exam time? Why are you back?" As he spoke, he opened the gate for me. I lowered my eyes and deliberately sighed. What's the use of getting admitted? My parents said they would only pay for my younger sister's education through college, and that I should start working to earn money right after the college entrance exams. There was a hint of pity in old man Dorian's eyes, but after all, this was someone else's family matter, so he couldn't say much about it. I first went to the underground garage, stored the bottled drinking water in my space, then pressed the elevator button for the 6th floor. Today was also Opal's college entrance exam day. With Corbin and Marigold both waiting outside the exam hall to accompany her, this actually made my next move more convenient. I quickly entered the password. In the kitchen, a several-pound king crab is waving its claws menacingly in the sink. Nearby, there are cleaned perch, chicken wings, and beef brisket, all prepared to celebrate Opal's successful college entrance exams. But now, all these will be enjoyed by me instead. With a wave of my little hand, the fruits and vegetables in the fridge, the rice and flour in the cupboard, and the half-used cooking oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar, stir everything in the space. After ransacking the kitchen, I came to Marigold's bedroom, computers, tablets, used old phones, and finally dug out a safe from under the bed. If I remember correctly, all the valuable things in the house are here. Before leaving, I found a miniature surveillance camera from the Wilderness Survival Kit and hid it inside the shoe cabinet in the living room. After finishing all this, I immediately turned around and ran all the way to the top floor of the adjacent building unit. As the college entrance exams approached, Marigold kept assigning me all sorts of household chores. To avoid disrupting my exam preparation, I had to rent this attic cheaply in the same neighborhood, never imagining it would become my only refuge now. The security door was somewhat old. I tried the key several times before finally managing to get inside. Close the windows, draw the curtains, then barricade the door with something heavy. The attic instantly grew dimmer, but I didn't stay idle. I quickly filled the pots and pans I'd brought from home with water, but it's still not enough. After the apocalypse outbreak, water and soil will quickly become contaminated by the zombie virus. To avoid future water shortages, I had to move non-perishable supplies out of my storage space and directly fill it with water. I also took the opportunity to wash all the fruits, vegetables, and even meat in my storage space with clean water. 5. The news online has exploded. Just open any browser, and it's all the same news about the virus spreading. The TV station urgently broadcast a news bulletin. Attention all residents, a new unknown virus has been discovered in our city. Infected individuals show strong aggressive tendencies. All residents are instructed to return home immediately, secure doors and windows, and await further instructions. Repeat again, all residents must return home immediately, close doors and windows, and await further instructions. Upon seeing this message, the neighborhood owners group chat exploded with reactions. Some suspected an alien invasion, while others claimed it was a virus leak. All sorts of speculations emerged endlessly, with some even posting photos of their stockpiled supplies. I frowned slightly as I looked at those screenshots flaunting seafood feasts and stocked refrigerators. Human nature is unpredictable in apocalyptic times. I'm afraid those people haven't realized how much trouble their current actions will bring in the future. Evelina, you bitch, did you already know about the zombie virus outbreak, which is why you turned in your paper early? On the phone, Opal's delicate face was filled with venomous resentment. The scenery outside the window was rapidly changing. Judging by the background, it seemed to be inside a moving vehicle. I raised an eyebrow and deliberately showed the half-finished milk tea beside me. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm just an ordinary person. How could I have possibly predicted the apocalypse would come? No matter what, rebirth is my greatest advantage, and I must never expose it. You vile wretch, I'll kill you. Opal's face flushed red with rage, her voice shrill and piercing. I lowered my gaze, a flash of mockery swiftly passing through my eyes. Can't handle it already, but how clearly I remember, in my past life when I fell into the zombie horde. She was the one laughing most joyfully. Watching her daughter lose control in anger, Marigold could no longer stay seated. Stroking her belly, she spoke with reproach. Evelina, this is where you're wrong. You two are sisters. How could you run off and leave Opal behind? Sisters. Hearing those two words, I immediately burst out laughing. She stole my room, hid my homework, and led her friends to bully me at school. Every single one of these things, which one wasn't done by her? So now you're saying she's my sister? Marigold's face stiffened, and as she tried to make further excuses, Corbin directly interrupted. "We're all family, why fuss over such trivial matters? Just come back honestly, and I'll pretend this incident never happened. By the way, there are man-eating monsters everywhere outside now. When you come back, remember to buy more supplies so our family won't have to risk going out again." So this was the real purpose of coaxing me to come back. I curled my lips and slowly uttered a few words. "I refuse. Let him and the Marigold mother-daughter pair rot in their own filth. If they get so much as a grain of rice from me in this lifetime, I'll admit defeat." 6. The zombie virus is spreading faster than anyone imagined. In just half a day, the entire neighborhood has fallen. A large group of people behaving strangely emerged out of nowhere, frantically rushing toward the crowd. Anyone who ran slightly slower on the road would be pounced on and bitten by them. When bystanders tried to pull them away, several more people ended up getting scratched, from 1 to 10, from 10 to 100, on the streets, by the flower beds, beneath the residential buildings. Everywhere was filled with slaughter and fleeing crowds. In no time, the open space outside the residential area was devoid of living people. A glance online revealed discussions about zombies everywhere. I left comments under the most popular videos. "The zombie virus is spreading so fast. I wonder if water and soil will be contaminated in the future." As for more details, I didn't say. After all, for those who are attentive, this one hint is already enough. The messages in the owners group had long since reached 99+, with everyone anxiously awaiting rescue. "Has anyone called the police?" "We did, but the police station is surrounded by zombies too. They can't get through. Help, someone save me. There's a zombie bashing against my window." In this situation, the Corbin family's burglary seemed insignificant. "Call the police. We must call the police." Corbin was so angry his eyes turned red, but when he dialed the police, the line was constantly busy. Finally got through. The police could only tactfully state that due to the zombie virus outbreak, police forces across regions were stretched thin and temporarily unable to handle such cases. Corbin angrily flung his phone to the ground with great force. With a crack, the phone instantly shattered into pieces. Marigold was startled, covering her stomach as she took a few steps back. Opal was also stomping her feet in anxiety. "Dad, Mom, what do we do now? There's no food left in the house." Seeing that neither of them spoke, Opal suddenly thought of something and screamed, "That's right, I know. It's Evelina. She must have taken everything while we were away." Marigold froze for a moment, then gritted her teeth and said, "That little wretch. I wondered why she handed in her exam early today. So this was her plan all along." Corbin lowered his head, lost in thought. Opal snorted and continued to add fuel to the fire. "Dad, I don't think she considers us family at all. You can't let her off easy this time." 7. Soon, the phone rang. I pressed the hang-up button. They called again stubbornly, so I directly turned on the Do Not Disturb mode. After several rounds of this, Corbin sent me a message. "You little brat. Don't think hiding will get you off the hook. If you've got what it takes, then don't you dare come back for the rest of your life." Every time I have conflicts with Marigold and her daughter, Corbin would threaten me with this line, simply because he knows, in the city, I have neither other relatives nor close friends. No matter how much grievance one suffers, in the end they can only compromise. This trick never fails to work for him. But that was before. Now though, I lower my gaze. Looking at the surveillance footage on my phone, Corbin sat proudly on the sofa, waiting for me to back down. How dare she? She must bring back 3 bags of food, or she can forget about entering this house. Opal sneered coldly. "If you ask me, we shouldn't even let her come back." Marigold poked her forehead irritably. "Are you stupid? If we don't let her go home, what will we do when the supplies run out? Will you go out to find more?" Opal's eyes lit up. The family of 3 exchanged glances and smiled knowingly. I pursed my lips, a hint of sarcasm flashing in my eyes. No wonder Marigold tried every possible way to persuade me to go back in my previous life. This was her scheme all along. 8. The sky gradually darkened, although the attic was high enough. In the silent night, those agonizing wails seemed amplified several times over. Unable to sleep anyway, I simply got out of bed, charging those dozen power banks while downloading various classic movies and variety shows from the internet. The night passed quickly. By daybreak, all the power banks were fully charged. I yawned and groggily made my way to the bathroom. Unexpectedly, as soon as I turned on the faucet, I caught a faint whiff of an unpleasant odor. It's quite obvious that the water has been contaminated. Many people in the neighborhood have also noticed the water contamination. Why does this water have a strange smell? Could the pipes be damaged? Yesterday I saw someone online saying water and soil might be contaminated with the zombie virus. Could it actually be true? Damn it, even the water is undrinkable now. How are we supposed to live like this? Just then, The phone vibrated. It was a notification from the property management in the group chat. Attention all residents. Investigations show varying degrees of contamination in domestic water sources. The water supply system has been shut down, with restoration time pending. This message instantly sent panic in the group chat to its peak. Some people began frantically calling for help, while others were offering high prices to purchase various supplies. Messages kept popping up one after another. I silently turned off my phone, took out toast and juice from my storage space, and had a simple breakfast. While eating, a sudden intense argument broke out outside. I tiptoed to the window and peered through the curtain gap at the opposite side. It was a young couple living in Unit 1203, Building B. The man pointed at the nearly empty water dispenser, his lips trembling with anger. With just this little water left, you still insist on washing the baby's bottom, sterilizing bottles. And damn it, 3 times, do you think this is still before the apocalypse, where you could buy water anywhere? The baby in her arms started wailing in fright, and the woman broke down too. That's our child. If we don't sterilize the bottle, he'll get diarrhea. If we don't wash his bottom with clean water, he'll develop a rash. What do you suggest we do? The man suddenly turned around and slammed his fist against the wall. What do we do? All I know is there are zombies everywhere outside. Without water, our whole family will die of thirst. The argument came to an abrupt halt. The woman collapsed to the ground, the cries of the child in her arms growing faint. The man knelt down trembling, reaching out to hold the child, only to be shoved away by the woman. This was only the first day of the apocalypse, yet some had already been driven to despair. I averted my gaze, lost in thought when my phone vibrated again. It was Marigold, 9, Evelina. It's far too dangerous out there. Your father and I are both very worried about you. Why don't you just come back? At least our family can look out for each other when we're together. Look out for each other. Their so-called care means pushing me out to exchange for supplies when resources run out. I curled my lips, a hint of sarcasm flashing across them. It's impressive she could even utter such hypocritical words. I knew perfectly well that if they hadn't been trapped in a desperate situation without food or water, they'd never have remembered this tool of a person. I changed my posture, showing them the supplies behind me while adding a caption. Don't worry, I'm doing great out here. How could I not be? That's a whole wall of supplies. Marigold's eyes turned red with excitement as she quickly called Corbin over and whispered, Corbin, look quickly. That wretched girl really went behind our backs to live the good life by herself. Soon. Opal's sarcastic voice rang out. Don't you see Mom and Dad are starving? How can you swallow all this food? Sensing the situation was off, Marigold quickly tugged at her daughter's sleeve. Evelina dear, don't mind it, Opal was just joking, but our house was indeed robbed. Hurry and bring back some food, the more the better. I directly cut off their fantasy. Did I ever say I was going back? Corbin was taken aback. Where else can you go if not home? Home, that's yours, not mine. At this point, I couldn't be bothered to keep up pretenses with them anymore. Corbin, Marigold, search your conscience and ask yourselves, are you truly worried about my safety, or are you coveting the supplies in my possession? Evelina, Corbin seemed thoroughly enraged. Don't push your luck. If you don't come back now, don't even think about setting foot in this house ever again. Great, I couldn't ask for more. I let out a cold laugh and hung up the phone before they could react. 10. The grudges from my past life are now things of the past. Rather than wasting time on those scumbags, I'd rather seize every moment to gather more advantages for myself in the coming apocalypse. The residential water supply has been cut off, but the natural gas is still available. I've been busy in the kitchen all day, constantly wielding the spatula, steamed rice, seafood congee, century egg and lean pork congee, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, eggplant with garlic sauce, shredded pork with green peppers, braised beef, braised spare ribs. They're all simple home-style dishes, with each pot serving generous portions, while it's still steaming hot from the pot, directly stored in the space. Now that the apocalypse has just begun, most people haven't fallen into desperate situations yet. We must take this time to cook the meals, try to minimize cooking in the future to avoid attracting unwanted attention. In the afternoon, continue the battle with various flour-based foods, steamed buns, rolls, stuffed pies, and Shao might take turns making appearances. The last basket of soup dumplings came out of the steamer well past midnight. I lay in bed, too exhausted to even move a finger. That sleep was exceptionally sweet. At daybreak, the growls of zombies echoed outside again. I sighed and resignedly got out of bed, continuing yesterday's work. 11. In the following days, the number of zombies kept increasing. Many buildings and facilities were destroyed. Even though the government urgently dispatched people for repairs, often as soon as one place was fixed, problems would emerge elsewhere. Even more terrifying, the power went out. People initially held on to the hope that the apocalypse would soon pass, but as the catastrophe persisted, more and more people had to risk venturing out to scavenge for supplies in order to survive. Yesterday afternoon, The young couple living across the way went out under cover of darkness to search for supplies and never returned. I sighed, though it weighed on my conscience. I knew I was just an ordinary person powerless to change anything. Corbin called me several more times, annoyed. I directly blocked their numbers. After all, constantly watching their act was quite exhausting, just like in the previous life. To fill his stomach, Corbin once again resorted to selling his daughter. Only in the previous life it was me who got sold, but in this life it became Opal, who was spoiled and pampered since childhood, naturally couldn't accept this decision. Why should it be me? That bitch Evelina has hoarded so many supplies. Go after her instead. Opal screamed and stepped back. I stared at the phone screen, watching her smash the living room vase violently onto the floor. Porcelain shards flew everywhere. Corbin's palm landed heavily on her face. How dare you, rebel? After eating our food and drinking our resources, it's your duty to make sacrifices for this family when it counts. Opal's face swelled up rapidly. Seeing this, Marigold instinctively shielded Opal behind her. Honey, spare Opal. She just turned 18. Spare her. Corbin scoffed disdainfully. If we spare her, should our whole family starve to death? Marigold's hands fell limply. Both parties quickly reached an agreement. Marigold was already weak from pregnancy, and under the sudden shock, she suffered a miscarriage. Corbin, finding it inauspicious, dragged her from the blood-stained sofa all the way to the balcony. Can't even bear a son and still wasting food. You'd be better off dead. As the last piece of bread disappeared into Corbin's mouth, the final glimmer of light in Marigold's eyes faded away. The next day, with cold indifference, Corbin tossed Marigold's corpse off the balcony, leaving it to be devoured by zombies. Watching the scene unfold on the surveillance feed, I couldn't help but shudder. In truth, Corbin is the most cold-hearted person in this household. Even someone as hypocritical and harsh as Marigold still holds a mother's love for her daughter, yet in Corbin's eyes, even his own daughter whom he doted on since childhood is nothing more than a commodity to be traded at will. 12. I never saw Opal again. Nor did I know what became of her, but for me, it doesn't matter anymore. The neighborhood owners group chat is noisy and quarrelsome every day. At first, they curse the apocalypse for leaving no way to survive, then they curse the property management for inaction, and now, even neighbors who don't lend them supplies get cursed. The verbal battles in the group keep escalating. Someone threatened to resort to robbery if they couldn't borrow supplies, even publishing a list titled Stockpiling Big Shots in the group chat. That very night, several households were robbed. Corbin carried the stolen supplies back home. Being alone, he specifically targeted elderly people and single women, but he wasn't feeling great either. The old lady in apartment 302 wielded her cane with terrifying vigor. Having run too slowly, he got whacked several times. Scenes like this played out almost daily in the neighborhood. I grew increasingly cautious, keeping daytime noise to a minimum and even avoiding turning on lights at night. Occasional screams could be heard from the residential area. I couldn't hear it clearly, but the zombies downstairs seemed summoned, surging toward one direction in a dark mass before slowly dispersing. Several more days passed like this. The number of zombies in the residential area doubled. Some came from outside, but more were transformed from the residents of the community. If at first it was just a shortage of supplies, but as the apocalypse progressed, the weather became increasingly bizarre. Sometimes daytime temperatures would soar above 40 degrees, only to plummet below zero at night. In such harsh conditions, even with the government's determined rescue efforts, the number of zombies continues to surge every day. 13. Another week passed, and people began conducting door-to-door sweeps. Corbin got into a conflict with them and was slashed in the shoulder by their knife. The wound wasn't originally very deep, but before sweeping the building, that person deliberately smeared zombie blood on the blade, and Corbin got infected just like that. I watched the scene quietly. I thought seeing his downfall would bring great satisfaction, but clearly, that wasn't the case. As night fell, over a dozen more corpses gradually appeared downstairs in the residential area, with sharp eyes. I noticed those corpses were somewhat mutilated, with fleshy parts seemingly carved away. Realizing a certain possibility, I was instantly overcome with horror. They dared not kill zombies, yet wielded their butcher knives mercilessly against their own kind. If this continues, it likely won't be long before those demons discover the attic's existence. That night, after erasing all traces of life from the attic, I silently returned to room 602, the place where I once lived. I was all alone, with no need to confront those people head-on. Besides, the attic was small and cramped. Those people would probably just do a quick inspection and leave, and I just need to wait for them to finish the inspection before going back. 14. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. During that time, those demons also left the neighborhood. After all, staying would mean supplies would eventually run out one day, so it's better to venture out and find a way to survive. When I realized they were leaving, I could hardly wait to buy firecrackers to celebrate. They're finally gone. During this time, I couldn't sleep at night, and even in my dreams I was outwitting those people. Now I can finally breathe a sigh of relief. To celebrate, I took out the king crab I'd been treasuring in my space for a long time and luxuriously prepared it 3 different ways. The spicy stir-fried crab legs were crispy outside and tender inside, while the crab roast steamed egg melted in the mouth. The remaining crab body was thrown into a clay pot and simmered into a thick seafood congee. Finally, it was paired with a refreshing and palate-cleansing glass of lemon tea. I sat by the window, enjoying delicious food while peering through the gaps at the zombies wandering below. At this moment, the food was not just a treat for the taste buds, but also a comfort for the half-year of constant fear. However, I didn't dare to indulge too much. After all, those demons may have left. But there's no guarantee other survivors aren't hiding in the neighborhood. Caution should still be the top priority. Thus, after a lavish seafood feast, I returned to my previous lifestyle. 15. Autumn passed and winter came. In the 5th month since the apocalypse began, temperatures plummeted, leaving a thick layer of snow on the ground. I didn't dare to collect it. First, I'm afraid the snow might contain the zombie virus. Second, I'm worried that collecting snow might expose the existence of the attic. However, one early morning, I still noticed a patch of snow missing downstairs. Clearly, there are other survivors hiding in the neighborhood. The weather is getting colder. The nighttime low temperature even reached -50 degrees. The square downstairs was completely buried in heavy snow. The zombies froze stiff, not only slowing their movement but also making their bodies much more brittle. Sometimes a single kick is enough to shatter their bones. Of course, I've only heard about this brutal method and haven't tried it myself. 16. The night before New Year's Eve, drones flew by with a roaring sound, dropping several red packages in the residential area. It looks very festive, until one time, I couldn't hold back and told my dad, only to be tearfully accused by Marigold, saying she was disciplining me because I was misbehaving and stealing money from home. Later, I heard on the radio that it was actually dumplings, and it was a mix of both pork and beef. 17. 1 year after the apocalypse arrived, with the arrival of summer, the zombies outside became fewer and fewer. Sometimes you wouldn't see one for several days in a row. Under the high temperatures, zombie bodies decayed extremely easily. Sometimes chunks of rotting flesh would just fall off as they walked. When the flesh on their bodies had nearly all fallen off, they would collapse with a splat, completely motionless. 18. In October of the same year, the nation successfully developed an antidote for the first time and began widespread spraying, not even sparing uninhabited areas. After all, this virus affected not only humans but also water and soil. Another year passed, and the toxicity in the soil and water sources completely degraded, allowing the nation to resume production. Shortly after, power and internet services began to be restored, and many people wept with joy online. On the day the internet was restored, I stared silently at the flood of loan repayment reminders appearing one after another. But don't panic, after rummaging through the space for a long time, I finally found the safe that had been forgotten in the corner. Inside, along with 100,000 in cash, were several 100-gram gold bars, more than enough to cover the loan. Story 2. The extremely hot apocalypse with a temperature of 80 degrees descended suddenly, due to the shortage of supplies. I refused to offer help to my stepmother Delilah's family. Unexpectedly, my father secretly brought them home when I wasn't paying attention. I was brutally killed, and all my supplies fell into the hands of these thieves. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn 3 months before the apocalypse. Along with my stepmother's family, I decisively reported the intelligence about the upcoming apocalypse to the state. Meanwhile, my stepmother's family frantically borrowed money, amassed wealth, stockpiled supplies, and built a safe haven for the apocalypse. They happily awaited the arrival of the apocalypse, only to be met with an arrest warrant from the state instead. Pain. It was excruciating. The wound from my slashed stomach made me twitch uncontrollably. The massive loss of blood made me feel as if I was falling into an icy abyss. My biological father, Jonathan, was standing right in front of me to my side. He watched indifferently as I was brutally killed by my stepmother and her 2 children. Josephine, didn't you expect this? Your father brought us back again. I'm much more important to him than you are. Sister Jonathan, stop struggling. I can barely hold you down. Since you're not willing to share the supplies, we have no choice but to send you on your way. I never imagined that my only blood relative would, for the sake of 3 outsiders, invite disaster into our home and heartlessly turn the blade on me. Don't kill me. I woke up with a start and found myself lying in my bed at home, my body already soaked in cold sweat. Subconsciously, I reached up to touch my stomach. Thankfully, it was intact. When I came to my senses, I picked up my phone and checked the date. I realized I had returned 3 months before the extremely hot apocalypse. 3 months later, the atmosphere would be damaged by an unknown substance. And the weather would suddenly turn abnormal. The temperature would soar by 40 degrees Celsius in just half a month, and tens of thousands of creatures would be literally baked to death. The world would plunge into complete chaos, and human sanity would be lost along with it. I was about to get out of bed when I noticed through the gap in the door that the lights were on outside. It was the middle of the night. I was cautious and didn't go to check myself. I quietly opened my phone, which was connected to the living room surveillance. I saw Delilah tightly hugging her 2 children, crying uncontrollably. Great, we're all alive. It must be the heavens showing mercy, allowing us to be reborn together to this day so we can prepare. I gritted my teeth, my nails digging deep into my palms as a fierce rage of hatred welled up inside me. I never expected that these beasts had also been reborn. Just then, Delilah's sinister gaze suddenly turned towards my closed door, and she whispered, "I just tested the old man, he's acting normal. Do you think Josephine could have been reborn like us?" After saying that, she picked up the glistening fruit knife on the table and walked step by step towards my room. Finally, reason prevailed over emotion. I quickly took off my earphones and turned off the phone screen. Holding my breath, I simulated even in soft snores, pretending to be sound asleep. The door opened gently. "Josephine, Josephine," the voice echoed in my ears. The voice that usually sounded gentle and delicate now sounded like the whispers of a demon. Her breath on my ear made the hair all over my body stand on end. Seeing that I didn't respond, Delilah muttered to herself, "She really seems to be asleep." I was overthinking, how could someone I killed with my own hands in the last life deserve to be reborn? Then she added greedily, "But Josephine, you really are tender and fragrant." I got goosebumps all over my body. The door slammed shut. I didn't dare to open my eyes and continued to maintain this state. After a long time, when I was about to open my eyes and keep peeking, an inexplicable sense of danger shot straight through my spine, stopping me abruptly. Then, a faint voice sounded, "I know you're awake, you're hiding, you've been reborn too, haven't you?" It turned out that Delilah hadn't left. It was all a test for me. She was now holding a knife, lying by the bed and staring at me without blinking. My heart was pounding with fear, but I still kept my breathing steady and continued to fake snores. After a long while, seeing that I still didn't react, she left. Only after I was sure she had completely left did I slowly open my eyes. On the surveillance, Delilah let out a long sigh. "I just tested her, she's sleeping like a log, but even if she was reborn, so what? Is she going to go around spreading the news about the apocalypse? She'd be better off getting sent to a mental hospital as a crazy person, then we wouldn't have to find a way to get rid of her, and all of the old man's money would be ours." Just then, Joseph leered and said, "Mom, since Josephine is going to die anyway, can I watched as Joseph, wearing a lecherous smile, walked step by step in this direction. My body, which had just relaxed a little, tensed up again. Joseph's hand was already on the bedroom doorknob. In the last life, he would always secretly eye me when I wore shorts or short skirts. "Brother, stop it." Thankfully, Cora grabbed him in time. "If you do anything to her now, you'll be waiting for the apocalypse in prison 3 months from now. Our main task now is to figure out how to sweet-talk the old man and get the money out of him. We still need the Jonathan's family's support for the upcoming purchase of supplies and the building of our safe haven for the apocalypse." When Delilah heard this, she thought her daughter was right and also stopped Joseph. "Cora is right. While others are starving, our family will be enjoying hot meals together. Then you can have any woman you want." As she said this, the 3 of them had a gleam in their eyes, looking eager and ready to take action. I knew that Cora loved reading apocalypse novels the most. She would occasionally share them with me, stories about building safe havens and stockpiling endless supplies. While others were fighting each other, one could enjoy a comfortable life in the safe haven. It sounded so pleasant. Delilah came to my home with her 2 children 5 years ago. Over the years, Delilah had never competed or fought for anything. She devoted herself to taking care of the old man, dutifully playing the role of a virtuous wife. Joseph and Cora also behaved themselves and never crossed the line. I took full control of the company. Gradually, I accepted them. Now I see that it was all an act. Maybe they had been plotting to get our family's assets in the last life. Fortunately, God gave me another chance at rebirth. This time, they are in the open, and I am in the dark. I'm looking forward to their next moves. They will definitely pay the price. The next morning, just as the sky was beginning to lighten, I rushed to the company. Using all my resources, I finally managed to meet Professor Mark. The old man sitting in front of me had a kind and amiable face, and his eyes exuded a glint of wisdom. He motioned for me to sit down and asked gently, "Young lady, I heard you've been looking for me. Is there something important?" I took a deep breath, trying to suppress my excitement, and slowly began, "Professor, what I'm about to say may seem incredible, but please believe me, 3 months from now, under the influence of solar radiation, a meteorite will completely destroy the Earth's atmosphere. At that time, the global temperature will soar, and we will enter an extremely hot apocalypse. I blurted out the research results from the previous life and carefully observed the professor's reaction. After a moment of silence, the old man furrowed his brows slightly, as if pondering my words. Young lady, there have indeed been abnormal fluctuations in solar radiation recently, but we haven't detected any impact on other substances. He paused and then continued, tell you what, we'll do our best to study this issue. If things are really as you say, we will report it to the state and take corresponding measures. I stared at him intently, full of trust. I believed that Professor Mark would do as he said. In the previous life, it was this professor who, under great pressure, spared no effort to uncover the true cause of the apocalypse. However, unfortunately, he passed away due to the effects of thermal radiation. After getting Professor Mark's promise, I didn't slack off. I asked my assistant to suspend the credit cards of Delilah and the other two. I leaked their personal information to lending companies. Then I asked my assistant to purchase a large quantity of supplies that could be stored for a long time. This included instant noodles, compressed biscuits, mineral water, and various essential daily necessities. Refrigerators and freezers were also essential. These were secretly transported to my other residences outside. After all this was done, I hired private detectives. I asked them to monitor the movements of Delilah's family in real time. At the same time, when they were out, I had 360-degree omnidirectional micro cameras installed in the family villa. A week later, the private detective reported to me, Miss Jonathan, the 3 people you asked me to follow have been to decoration companies in various large and small wholesale markets these past few days. Now a large number of workers are delivering goods to the villa. After saying that, he sent over videos and photos. Delilah and the other 2 knew not to draw too much attention. In the videos, the 3 of them were fully covered up, giving instructions as the workers delivered the supplies to the house in batches. The old man was not visible in the videos. I just watched their actions quietly. Buy more, I thought, the more the better. When they found out there was no money in their cards, they would fall right into the trap I set for them. Miss Jonathan, there's no money in this card. Would you like to use another one? The deliverman's words stunned Delilah. She quickly took out several more bank cards to try to pay. The result was the same. Insufficient balance, Delilah said angrily. This must be the doing of that little bitch Josephine. She suppressed her anger, adjusted her emotions, and called me, Josephine. I was planning to buy some things for the house today. The goods are already here, but I found that there's no money in my card. Do you know what's going on? Listening to the flattering voice on the phone, I sneered inwardly. Fortunately, I held the financial power firmly in my hands. When they ran out of money, they had no choice but to come crawling to me. I cleared my throat and said, Delilah, due to Joseph's mistake, the company lost a large order. I had to use this money to cover the losses. If the shareholders find out, it will be a big problem. Joseph beside her pursed his lips and his eyes kept dodging. Delilah was about to say something more, but I hung up the phone directly, as the deliverman started to look increasingly impatient. Cora pulled the 2 of them aside to discuss. A lending company approached me yesterday. Once the apocalypse comes, we won't have to pay back the money. Stockpiling supplies is the most important thing now. In this way, the 3 of them successfully bought all the supplies. This was just the first step in leading them down the road to ruin. Afterward, the 3 of them thought more and more that something was wrong. Why did I suspend their cards just at this time? They brought my father, Jonathan, to the company to test me. The old man stormed into my office. Why did you suspend Delilah's card? Delilah has worked so hard taking care of me all these years. As a younger generation, you should be more filial. Jonathan, it's troublesome enough for Josephine to manage the company alone. This is just a small matter. There's no need to bring us here to question the child. My stepmother quickly grabbed the old man, putting on a pitiful look. Looking at my father, who was siding with my stepmother, I couldn't help but feel a little sad. It was true that with a stepmother, a biological father could become a stepfather too. Even if the order was lost, you should get them a new card. The old man snorted coldly, his attitude firm. I pretended to hesitate and then handed over a card. I have a card with 1 million yuan on it, the old man said. That's more like it. The few of them left triumphantly, swaggering out like roosters that had won a fight. Looking in the direction they left, I sneered. That card was a special gift I prepared for them, a high-interest loan taken out in their names. I hoped they would make good use of it. A month and a half later, finally, some good news came. Miss Jonathan, the information you provided has been fully verified through experiments and computer simulations. We have issued a warning to the state, and actions will be taken soon. We're confident that we can prevent the apocalypse from happening in the next month. Professor Mark's words filled me with excitement. I cried out in joy. Great, we won't have to face destruction, and humans won't have to kill each other over a bite of food. Professor Mark shook his head and smiled. We should be thanking you. You're the hero who saved all of humanity in these 2 lifetimes. I had never been as happy as I was at this moment. Professor Mark didn't ask me why I said humans would kill each other. Meanwhile, Delilah's family had no idea that the apocalypse crisis had been taken seriously by the state and that measures were being taken to resolve it. They were still busy preparing for the construction of the safe haven, busily making all kinds of preparations inside and outside the villa. A month before the apocalypse, Delilah's family racked their brains, coming up with one after another flimsy excuse to get money from me. They claimed that some of their distant relatives were seriously ill and in urgent need of money for treatment. I didn't refuse directly. Instead, I bought a fruit basket and tipped Delilah's hand affectionately. Delilah, as a family, I can't just stand by. I must go to the hospital to visit your relatives in person. They wouldn't get another penny from me at this time. Joseph also met the love of his life and urgently needed money to buy a house to give the girl a sense of security. This was a major life event, and I pretended to take it very seriously. I showed great support and respect. Then I sent people to investigate openly, scaring away the girl who was in on their act, and she didn't even take the money. I knew that no girl would be willing to marry a playboy like Joseph. They kept using all kinds of clumsy tricks, and I was happy to play along with them. The private detective reported to me again. Joseph was now using his property deeds and various jewelry as collateral to take out high-interest loans. This was the opportunity one had been waiting for. I immediately called the police, reporting that my property deeds and some valuables had been stolen. The police were very efficient, and Joseph was arrested in less than 2 hours. When I showed up at the police station, I didn't miss the fleeting look of resentment on his face. Josephine. So it was you who reported this to the police. Quickly tell the police that all of this is a misunderstanding. We're all family. Let's talk about this at home. Don't let outsiders laugh at us here. I felt as if I had heard the most ridiculous joke in the world. I sneered coldly and disdainfully. Whose family with you? You stole my property and sold it, which already constitutes theft. You also embezzled company assets without authorization. The evidence is conclusive. And I have already reported the case to the police. Joseph was completely stunned. Delilah and Cora, who had rushed over behind me, were also left dumbfounded. They couldn't figure out why I had suddenly launched an attack and showed no mercy at all. Just some time ago, I had given them 1 million yuan under the pressure of the old man. Josephine, it's not what you think. Hurry up and withdraw the case. Just say that you were mistaken, Joseph pleaded. I retorted, tell me. Where is the misunderstanding? After looking around nervously, Joseph whispered in my ear, Josephine, I'll tell you a secret. In fact, we're all reborn. The extremely hot apocalypse is coming soon, and then the world will be in complete chaos. People's hearts will be more scattered than sand. We've been asking you for money recently because we need to stockpile supplies and build a fortress for the apocalypse. Think about it. What will banknotes be like then? They'll be like waste paper. Supplies will be the real king. Others will go crazy and kill each other just for a piece of bread, but we'll be able to enjoy delicious food and good drinks in the safe haven. How happy we'll be. Time is running out now. We can't afford to waste time at the police station. Withdraw the lawsuit quickly, sell the company, and use the money to save our lives. If we don't act now, it will really be too late. Delilah also quickly crowded around and chimed in. I know all of this sounds incredible, but Josephine, you must believe us. We're doing all of this for your own good. If the extremely hot apocalypse doesn't come in 3 months, you can send us back here. I promise I won't complain at all. This family was convinced that the apocalypse was definitely going to arrive. Then their family would be able to do whatever they wanted with the supplies. I was really curious. If they knew that the apocalypse wasn't coming and everything was normal, what kind of expressions would they have? I started looking forward to it. You're reborn, then why were you the only ones reborn and not me? I sneered and questioned. The corners of their mouths twitched slightly, and their eyes wandered, which was clearly a sign of guilt. Of course, they couldn't tell the truth. Josephine, in the last life, you accidentally died while saving your father. After we were reborn, we decided to make up for the debt we owed you, Delilah said. Pretending to shed a tear, Joseph also sighed beside her. Enough. Do you think you can get away with it by acting crazy? I can withdraw the case, but there's one condition. I looked at them like they were fools. What condition? I'll agree to any condition. The 3 of them lit up with hope. I want you, Delilah, to leave my father, then I'll withdraw the lawsuit and let it go, or make up the company's accounts within 3 days. What? Delilah's expression changed instantly. And she shrieked sharply, "I don't agree. I've taken care of your father for a full 5 years. Why should I leave?" The truth was probably that if she left now, it would be difficult for her to embezzle money and build the safe haven later. Then there's no room for negotiation. I turned to leave. "Hey, Josephine, wait a minute." Delilah was anxious and quickly said, "Josephine, does your father know that you want me to leave?" Was she threatening me? Seeing that I stopped in my tracks, she thought she had found my weakness and said triumphantly, "Josephine, your father probably doesn't want me to leave." Remembering that in the last life, my biological father had actually killed me with his own hands for such a person, I certainly couldn't show weakness either. "You've always pretended not to compete or fight in front of the old man. If he knew that your precious son had secretly embezzled public funds, do you think he would still side with you?" Delilah suddenly deflated like a punctured balloon and hesitated. Joseph clearly saw that his mother was compromising. He roared loudly, "Mom, you can't give up on me. Once the apocalypse arrives, I'll die here." The policeman beside them looked at him like he was a fool, but it didn't matter. Cora stepped forward and took her brother's hand, whispering in his ear, "The safe haven hasn't been built yet. Give me and Mom some more time. Brother, you'll just have to suffer and stay here for a while. When the time comes, you can escape in the chaos, and we'll wait for you in the safe haven." I stood at the door and watched them perform this act of motherly kindness and filial piety. It must not feel good to be abandoned by your own mother, after a long time. Delilah came up to me with a look of resentment and said harshly, "Josephine, we gave you a chance. Just wait to die of thirst, hunger, and be roasted to death by the sun later." The corners of my mouth curled up slightly, and I mocked, "Weren't you talking nonsense about the extremely hot apocalypse coming? Do you still have the time to curse me now?" Hearing this, Delilah gritted her teeth and left silently. After I left, Cora said resentfully, "Mom, are we just going to let that bitch go?" Delilah said with a dark face, "When the apocalypse arrives, that little bitch will definitely come and beg us, then we'll torture her properly." In the following days, the private detective kept sending me news about the mother and daughter. With my obstruction, they couldn't get much money from the old man either. They sold everything they could, including the house, car, jewelry, and bags. They also borrowed money from all their relatives and friends, in order to get the money smoothly. They offered very high interest rates. They also wrote all the repayment dates after the apocalypse. At the same time, they were frantically borrowing from online lending platforms. No matter what platform it was, whether it was formal or not, as long as they could borrow money, they would do it. Then Delilah and her daughter pulled off some really astonishing tricks. I was completely stunned when I saw them. Delilah actually sent Cora to go on blind dates. She specifically targeted people who were almost on their deathbeds, or fools and cripples, to cheat their betrothal gifts. The amounts ranged from several thousand to hundreds of thousands of yuan, and they accepted them all. They alternated between blind dates and engagement ceremonies every day. I was even afraid that they would accidentally reveal the truth. The promised wedding dates were all set after the apocalypse arrived. In their view, all these people would eventually die in the sudden apocalypse, even if they were lucky enough to survive. They definitely wouldn't have the ability to find them again. In order to speed up the process of getting money, my stepmother Delilah actually resorted to sleeping with others for money. Delilah was indeed very charming. Back then, the old man was even willing to give up the company just to let her into the family. According to the private detective, she initially only did this outside the house, but as time went by, she became more brazen. She put sleeping pills in the old man's food several times and even brought other men back home directly. Now that I know about it, I wonder if Delilah will still be so lucky not to be discovered. Based on the exclusive information from the private detective and with the help of the 360-degree omnidirectional surveillance, I let the old man witness the extremely flirtatious scene of Delilah with other old men with his own eyes. The old man was so angry that his face turned blue, and he almost couldn't catch his breath. He mercilessly drove Delilah and her daughter out of the villa, but at the same time, due to the great shock, he had a heart attack and was sent to the hospital. The moment he killed me in the last life, the father-daughter relationship between us vanished into thin air. Let him spend the rest of his life alone in the hospital. This is the last bit of kindness I have for him. Next, I'm going to deal with these running moths, as expected. The two of them went to the carefully renovated Apocalypse Fortress they had built. Several solar panels were installed on the roof, and there were dozens of large and small refrigerators and freezers. The heat insulation, refrigeration, and water purification systems were all in place. Half of the rooms in the villa were filled with clean drinking water and food. The mother and daughter were now sitting in the villa contentedly, enjoying the delicious food leisurely. In 3 days, the extremely hot apocalypse would arrive. I guessed that for the sake of safety, they wouldn't go out anymore. Their good days were coming to an end. I immediately took the next step. I informed the victims of their fraud about the truth, and by the way, I spread the word that they were in debt and planning to run away with the money. I also accidentally revealed the address of their so-called safe haven, 2 days before the apocalypse arrived. Dozens of people gathered outside the safe haven. After asking each other around, it turned out that all these people were Cora's prospective fiancés. When they learned that this luxurious villa in front of them was built with their betrothal gifts, everyone's eyes turned red instantly. They rushed towards the safe haven recklessly, demanding an explanation. "You little bitch, how dare you cheat me? Get out here, I'll skin you alive, give us back our money." Delilah and Cora refused to come out. Inside the house, the two of them were still feeling pleased with themselves. "Do you think you can break into the apocalypse fortress that we spent a lot of money building?" The crowd called the police. After the police's violent breakthrough that lasted for 3 hours, the safe haven fell. The mother and daughter were completely stunned, and their faces immediately turned ugly. "Mom, didn't you say they couldn't break in? What should we do? What should we do?" The two of them still tried to escape in the chaos. The group of old men and creditors swarmed up. They punched and kicked them, venting their anger. They still stubbornly shouted frantically, "I'm not going anywhere. The apocalypse is coming, and all of you will be roasted to death. Let me go. I don't want to die. If you let me go, I'll share the supplies with you." It hurts, stop hitting me." The scene was in complete chaos for a while. I mingled with the crowd watching the commotion in the distance. When the police pulled the two of them out, the mother and daughter were disheveled, with bruises all over their faces. They were arrested by the police on suspicion of fraud and illegal fundraising. Back at the police station, the two of them still kept saying that the apocalypse was about to arrive. Everyone regarded them as crazy people. I also followed them to the police station, taking advantage of my identity as a relevant person. I found an opportunity to talk to the two of them. "Delilah, I also have a secret to tell you. Actually, I was reborn too. Now I'll take over your safe haven. You and Joseph can just wait for the apocalypse in prison." In the face of their shocked and incredulous gazes, I raised a provocative smile, ignoring their vicious curses. I lifted my feet and walked out of the police station. The feeling of not only punishing them but also breaking their hearts was really addictive to me. The day before the apocalypse arrived, the police station informed me that Joseph had injured the accompanying personnel and escaped from prison on the way to the prison. They warned me that he might come for me at any time and had already dispatched police officers to protect me. My heart skipped a beat, and I already guessed that Joseph would definitely try to attack me today. After thinking for a moment, I asked the police to go and set up defenses at the safe haven I had prepared earlier. I was confident that I could catch him. All day long, I swaggered around the streets alone. It was getting dark. I deliberately walked into a deserted alley. I was even afraid that he wouldn't come. I couldn't let go of the grudge from the last life so easily. Someone was gradually approaching me from behind. Suddenly, I felt a sharp object press against my back. A hoarse voice came from behind me. "Josephine, I've been thinking these past few days, you must have been reborn too, right?" I pretended to tremble all over in fear. "So what if I was?" The knife pressed against my back exerted even more pressure. "Since you admit it, then I'll kill you again. If you do this, you'll go to prison." Joseph interrupted me without a care. "Josephine, you know that as long as tonight passes, the apocalypse will officially arrive. Not to mention that I escaped from prison. Even if I kill you right now, no one will care. As long as you don't kill me, I can take you to my safe haven." The man was silent for a moment, then continued to press the knife against me, signaling for me to lead the way. I talked to him all the way. "Joseph, don't you care about your sister and your mother?" Joseph replied coldly, "They abandoned me first. I'm also entitled to a share of the supplies over there. I'll go find them later." And then he let out a creepy laugh. It seemed that he didn't know that Delilah and her daughter had been arrested. "Those two bitches actually treated me like this. In that case, after the apocalypse arrives, I'll just throw them out. Once I take over the supplies in the safe haven, in the apocalypse, I can have women, servants, and even an empire if I want. All of it will come true." The man behind me had already gone crazy. I still couldn't help but ask, "When the apocalypse arrives, can you really stay out of trouble?" Of course, this is my chance to turn things around. I really wanted to mock him. Had he read too many stupid novels? After walking for half an hour, we finally arrived in front of a villa. Joseph's tone was filled with disdain. "Is this the safe haven you prepared?" Then he added contemptuously, "Compared to the one I prepared, this is really far inferior." I groped in the dark and opened the door. Joseph was extremely cautious. After coming in, He locked the door tightly to prevent me from running away. With the knife still pressed against my back, he searched several rooms one after another. After confirming that it was safe and seeing the abundance of supplies, he started to feel complacent. In order to speed up the search and expand the search range, he gradually loosened his hold on me. I seized the opportunity. When he was distracted, I exerted all my strength, broke free from his hold, and ran forward. I shouted loudly, "Now!" In an instant, the police officers in uniforms rushed out from all directions. I quickly found a safe place to hide. When Joseph saw that the situation was not right, he immediately ran towards the door. Unfortunately, it was he himself who had just locked the door. He had become a trapped animal in a cage. Just like that, Joseph was successfully arrested. During the arrest process, Joseph, like Delilah and her daughter, shouted hysterically, "You can't arrest me, the apocalypse is coming soon. I have a safe haven, and I have supplies. I'm about to become the king of the apocalypse." On the day the apocalypse was supposed to arrive, I was sincerely invited by Professor Mark to witness the process of the meteorite being shot down. At the scene, I met many heroes who selflessly sacrificed their lives to save the world. In my previous life, there were scientific researchers, leaders at all levels, and soldiers. When they saw me, they came forward one after another to thank me. I was truly flattered. I just provided a piece of information. In fact, it was them who truly made contributions behind the scenes. 3, 2, 1. With an order, hundreds of missiles were launched into the universe simultaneously, in a place that was invisible to our naked eyes. A meteorite that was originally about to destroy the Earth shattered into several pieces. Finally, it completely disappeared under the effect of the atmosphere. This operation was successfully completed. The entire control center cheered. "Yeah, I've also saved the Earth. I was very lucky to witness all of this. I think this is the meaning of my rebirth." Soon, the police's investigation results came out. Joseph was sentenced to death on multiple charges, including illegal fundraising, kidnapping, escaping from prison, and assaulting a police officer. Delilah and Cora were sentenced to 10 years in prison for fraud and illegal fundraising, and all their assets were confiscated. In the courtroom, after hearing their sentences, Delilah fainted on the spot and became crazy when she woke up. Cora cried and made a scene in court. Joseph's eyes were red, and he murmured to himself, "Why is this happening? It shouldn't be like this. Why didn't the apocalypse come?" And this question was answered for the three of them before they received their respective punishments. Do you know why the apocalypse didn't come? Because I reported it to the state at the first opportunity. I mocked Joseph with a smile. Joseph's eyes suddenly widened, and then he roared like a crazy beast, "Josephine, give me back the apocalypse. I could have become the king of the apocalypse by stockpiling supplies. What right do you have to prevent the apocalypse from coming? Give it back to me. Give me back the apocalypse now." I shook my head and said, "Joseph, someone like you doesn't deserve to be reborn. How many people died in the extremely hot apocalypse? This was a catastrophe for all mankind, yet you didn't care. Instead, you wanted to use human suffering to reach the peak of your life. I was really blind to have agreed to the old man's request to let you people into my home." A week later, Joseph was executed. My stepmother was sent to a mental hospital because of her madness. Due to her criminal record, she was looked down upon by everyone. She was often covered in excrement and urine and was left unattended. Her life was more torturous than death. Not long after Cora was released from prison, she degenerated. Finally, she contracted a venereal disease, her body festered, and she died in a corner where no one cared. As for me, because I reported the information about the apocalypse to the state, I successfully prevented the apocalypse from coming and was awarded the first-class merit. The stock price of my company soared as a result, reaching another peak. I donated the surplus supplies stored at home to poor areas. I established a foundation to fund national scientific research projects. Extra 1. The extremely hot apocalypse in the previous life. The news broadcast kept repeating, "Recently, our country has once again experienced extremely high temperatures." The temperatures in many places have far exceeded historical extremes. 15 provinces across the country have issued red high temperature warnings. The highest daily outdoor temperature in our country will rise above 59 degrees, and the highest nighttime temperature will reach 42 degrees, which is a full 15 percentage points higher than last year, since the atmosphere was completely damaged by an unknown substance. A super big sun appeared in the sky. The sun was scorching, baking the earth. People were panicking, and rumors were spreading everywhere. In areas directly exposed to the sun during the day, the air temperature reached above 59 degrees. Humans began to rest during the day and go out at night, but such days didn't last long. The temperature suddenly soared, and the outdoor temperature reached 80 degrees, almost boiling. The power supply across the country was also declared to be in an emergency. The scorching sun combined with the power outage This terrifying and huge crisis soon swept across the globe. It was like a furnace on Earth. Death, diseases, and even plagues all came one after another. The corpses turned red, and all the organs were cooked, emitting a strange smell. With just a swipe of the hand, the skin and flesh could be easily separated from the bones. In less than half a day, the body would evaporate into a well-cooked mummy. Order collapse. Human willpower and moral sense became extremely weak at this moment. Extra 2. Joseph, when the apocalypse arrived, that bitch Josephine actually drove us out. I had no choice but to take my sister and mother and frantically raid supermarkets. Even so, the supplies we got were still very scarce. The high temperature weather annoyed me so much, I couldn't help but fantasize that if only I could be reborn, then I could stockpile a large amount of supplies. Seeing that there was very little food left, suddenly, an evil thought took root in my mind. I found my sister and mother. The food and water at home are almost gone. We'll have no choice but to die then. I have a way for us to survive. While Josephine was out looking for supplies, I secretly took them to see Jonathan. My mother pretended to be pitiful in front of him, played the victim, and whispered in his ear. He actually let us in. Jonathan is not a good person either. He actually watched as we killed and dismembered Josephine. Unfortunately, the supplies didn't last us a few days, so we had no choice but to turn our attention to that old bastard Jonathan. It's really ridiculous. He begged us to spare him before he died. The moment we killed Josephine, he should have understood that it would be his turn sooner or later. I never expected that my only relative. We can't hold on much longer. Now the nighttime temperature has also started to reach 59 degrees. It feels like flames are about to burst out of my body. Why are my hands and legs so wrinkled? If only I could be reborn. This thought kept repeating in my mind before I died. Rebirth, rebirth, extra 3, Josephine. On the night I was reborn, I couldn't fall asleep all night. I spent half the night planning what useful things I should stockpile, but there was a question that kept lingering in my mind. Can I really stay out of trouble in this apocalypse? In the end, I decided to report it to the state. This disaster could be avoided by mankind. Story 2. My cousin Aria, who lives with us, seems to embody a saintly persona. As the extreme cold apocalypse approached, she announced in the community chat that our house had food. Neighbors, blinded by hunger, swarmed our door, and she gave away all our food. My parents starved to death, yet she secretly hoarded a cupboard full of instant noodles, unwilling to share even a single packet. She also insisted on sheltering 2 desperate men looking for warmth. When the men turned violent, she pushed me out to appease them and protect herself. Not only was I humiliated, but I also became their source of sustenance, helping them survive the cold spell. After surviving, it was only natural for Arya to inherit our house and money. Her image of selfless kindness even caught the eye of a wealthy heir, and she married into a life of luxury. If she wants to play the saint again, I'll make sure she gets her wish. This year is colder than usual. Let's buy more New Year goods and try to stay indoors as much as possible. Watching my neatly dressed parents ready to go out shopping, it felt like a dream. I realized I had been reborn a week before the cold wave, on the day they went out to stock up on New Year goods. Meanwhile, my orphan cousin Arya lay on the couch playing video games, uninterested in stocking up. It's always better to eat fresh food. It's not like we can't buy it. Indeed, she said that, but when the cold hit, she was the first to consume our food and even gave it away to others, earning the title of a hero in desperate times. Then, as I watched my parents starve, she justified it by saying they were old and should give the younger ones a chance to live. Later, she even sheltered 2 criminals to gain their favor, pushing me out and claiming the need for fresh food. Not knowing when the cold would end, I became their captive food source. They didn't kill me right away but took fresh flesh from me daily to cook. With each cut, I was left with countless wounds, in agony. I begged Arya for a quick death, but she was indifferent. One must honor one's parents by preserving the body. How can you wish for death so easily? You wouldn't want to disappoint your uncle and aunt, would you? I'm saving you. If you can last until the cold ends, you'll survive. But it was she who let the criminals in and pushed me out. Yet there she stood, bathed in saintly light, blaming me, playing the good person while I was trapped between life and death. I really wanted to end her life right then, but it wasn't worth sacrificing myself and possibly bringing harm to my parents, so I planned to deal with her once the cold wave hit, when countless others would die, and no one would investigate her death too closely. I wiped away tears as I woke from the nightmare and approached my parents. This time, I wouldn't let Arya cause their deaths again. Let cousin Arya buy her own fresh food daily. We'll buy our supplies. With that, I put on my coat and hat and went out with my parents. From inside, I heard Arya's voice. If my parents were still alive, I wouldn't have to live at the mercy of others. My parents, ever kind, still urged me. Your aunt and uncle passed away early. Give Arya some leeway. She's staying with us now. We can't make her feel inferior or wronged. Every time, she used this tactic on my parents, and they satisfied whatever she asked for using that line, but she didn't deserve it. Even a dog knows to watch the house, but she was nothing but an ungrateful wretch. I remained silent. My parents still didn't understand what Arya was really like, and arguing was pointless. What mattered now was stocking up and preparing to survive the 3 months of the cold wave. When the cold first hit, everyone underestimated it, then thought it was the apocalypse, losing their humanity, but the cold only lasted 3 months. Surviving that was all that was needed. Those who committed atrocities during those months could start anew once it passed. The snow covered all sins, but why should those who did evil thrive on the bones of others? This time, they would pay with blood for blood, to appease Arya. My parents bought her a bunch of her favorite snacks. I ignored them. Focusing instead on our survival, my self-sufficient contacts arranged to buy meat and vegetables, having them delivered to our house in the middle of the night. In such cold weather, people are reluctant to deliver at midnight, but I persuaded them with a generous payment. We live on the first floor and paid extra for a garden and a basement when purchasing the house, while my parents and Arya were asleep. I had everything moved to the basement. The basement is usually used for storage, and family members don't typically go there, so they won't find out. It's mostly filled with Arya's junk. Over the years, she suddenly wanted to learn the piano, then the guitar. She always wants to follow whatever others are doing, no matter the cost, and throws a fit if she doesn't get her way. She complains about being mistreated by her uncle and if she doesn't get what she wants. In the end, all the stuff we bought ended up gathering dust in the basement. It was a good opportunity for the movers to clear out all that trash. Eventually, her trash would be thrown out too. Now the basement is fully stocked with food, along with coal for heating and various emergency medicines. By the time everything was finished, it was nearly 5 a.m., and there were still workers coming over during the day. The house needs to be reinforced, with the cold wave lasting 3 months. Human malice is at its peak, and I have to be fully prepared. I could hide the hoarding of supplies during the night, but the renovation couldn't be concealed, so I told my parents I received my year-end bonus and wanted to renovate the doors and windows. In reality, during my 4 years in college, I had been working part-time and saving money to start a business with friends, and our small company has been stable for the past 2 years. I never mentioned it because I was worried about Arya, who only knows how to leech off others. Hearing my parents lament over the money I spent on the house, she felt it was a dig at her. She sarcastically remarked, "The money and house left by my parents are enough to support me, and besides, jobs aren't that easy to find. You've only graduated for 2 years. How could you have so much money? It wasn't earned through shady means, was it? Don't end up embarrassing your uncle and aunt." I wouldn't want to live in a house renovated with dirty money. Upon hearing this, I was furious and grabbed her by the collar and dragged her outside, throwing her out like a stray dog, and even slapped her. "You freeload in my house and never chip in, but your mouth never stops running." Disgusted, "You'd better leave. The debts your parents left aren't even enough to cover your expenses. Don't you have any sense? I can't kill her, but that doesn't mean I can't beat her." I closed the door, and Arya, furious, started a tantrum, running out to the community in her pajamas to play the victim. Ever since she was young, whenever she's upset, she runs out and cries, making it seem like she's being mistreated. Passers-by would look and point, and she'd put on a pitiful face, claiming her parents were gone and her uncle and aunt had kicked her out after taking her money, making everyone think we were the villains. This time, my parents didn't go out to coax her. My mom was furious. What a waste raising her all these years. And now she even slanders our family. Have I ever spent her money? I've paid off tens of thousands of her family's debts. She's in her 20s and still living at our expense. Zach, she's your niece, you spoil her, but I won't serve her anymore. Over the years, my mom has tolerated Arya for my dad's sake. Truly fed up, my dad is also helpless. If not for the blood relation, who would want to be the scapegoat? As for whether Arya's parents left anything, honestly, her family was dirt poor. And after they died, all that was left were debts. There was only a dilapidated house that sold for a few tens of thousands, not even enough to pay off the debts. If it weren't for my parents' pity, and no other relatives willing to take her in, who would care about her, who knew that after all this, she would turn on them like an ungrateful wolf. Eventually, Arya, freezing outside, shamelessly came back. She still put on a proud facade. "After the new year, I will find a job and move out. I won't bother you anymore." She even bought a few boxes of instant noodles, planning to stand tall and fend for herself. Hilarious, she said this hundreds of times before. Does she even believe herself? But she won't survive past the cold wave anyway. The night the renovation was completed, a heavy snow began to fall. At first, everyone thought it was just a bit colder than usual this year. Until a week had passed and temperatures plummeted to several degrees below zero, people couldn't travel. And there was a shortage of supplies that couldn't even be obtained through hoarding. Power outages began in some areas, and panic gradually set in as people sensed an apocalyptic vibe. Thanks to the substantial stock of New Year goods my parents had hoarded, our family still had plenty of food. Certainly, the food stored in the basement was more than enough for us to weather the cold wave with plenty to spare. Some in the community group had already run out of food at home and began to buy at high prices within the group. I knew Arya had already secretly added these people's accounts. After negotiating a good price, she would take all the food from our house and sell it to the neighbors. Originally, she thought she had found a way to make a fortune and wanted to earn money to prove she wasn't useless. Taking advantage of the time when my parents and I were asleep, she sold all the New Year goods we had hoarded to others at high prices. She played the good person, leaving us to starve. In the end, it led to my parents starving to death, and I was too weak to resist, which allowed her to take advantage of us. This time I got ahead of her. While she was in the bathroom, I moved all the food she had hidden in her room out. It was several boxes of instant noodles she had prepared to show us she wouldn't need handouts, along with a bunch of snacks. I moved all the instant noodles and snacks outside and messaged everyone in the group, anyone who's run out of food at home, come to my house to pick it up. I have plenty to share for free. With my offer of free food, who would want to pay high prices? By the time Arya finished in the bathroom and came out, the last packet of noodles had been taken. She saw the group message but didn't realize that the food I was giving away for free was what she had hidden. It's only my fault for cutting off her source of income. She furiously accused me. Grace, are you out of your mind? Everyone's short on food, and you're just giving it away for free. I feigned surprise. We're all neighbors. Aren't we supposed to help each other in times of crisis, rather than profiting from disaster by selling at high prices? Weren't you always nice to the neighbors? Why are you so stingy now that lives are at stake? Should I tell them my cousin doesn't want to give it away, have them return it and then buy it with money? Originally, she played the saint, selling our food to others. She also said that neighbors should help each other out, calling me and my parents petty and selfish, and that being related to us was embarrassing for her. Now that the roles are reversed, she can't handle it. She rolled her eyes in frustration. I never said to make them return it. If you're happy to give it away, then you deserve to starve later. She always portrayed herself as a frail, kind-hearted, righteous figure in front of the neighbors. Of course, she didn't want to ruin her image. Moreover, she thought I was giving away our family's food, and she'd have to depend on her face to get by later. Back in her room, she let out a sharp scream because the noodles and snacks were gone. She stormed out, glaring at me. Grace, what do you mean by this? You're giving my things away. That was all bought by me. What right do you have to touch it? It's funny, she can sell other people's things at high prices, but when her things are taken, she starts jumping. I responded calmly, yours, didn't you buy that with the family's money? Haven't you been living off my parents and me all these years? Besides, those are just instant noodles and snacks. Eating them isn't healthy, it's better to eat less. Originally, when only her room had some noodles and snacks left, and my parents asked her to share them, she said those life-saving items were unhealthy and we should eat less. She locked herself in her room, quietly eating, barricading the door with a wardrobe, watching as my parents and I starved. In the end, my parents left the last half bowl of rotten vegetable soup for me and starved to death. After they died, she came out and insincerely said, survival of the fittest. That's the law of nature. They were old. The chance to live should be given to the young. This time, I've hidden the remaining food in my room. Now I want to see if nature can weed out this trash. Arya, furious, locked herself in her room in a hunger strike, but eventually, no one cared, and she was forced to come out and secretly eat. All the food was in my room. The refrigerator was even moved away. She didn't find anything, not even rotten vegetable leaves, and when she sneaked into my room, I mistook her for a thief and beat her up. I turned on the light and was shocked to see Arya, her face bruised and swollen with resentment. Well, I was just pretending. Oh, it's you, cousin, I said. I thought you were a thief. What are you doing sneaking into my room in the middle of the night? She was still giving us the cold shoulder, obviously too embarrassed to admit she came to steal food because she was hungry. She viciously threw at me. Grace, you just wait. Watching her retreat in disarray, I sneered, curious to see what trick she would try next. She was stubborn, surviving on stolen leftovers and expired snacks from the trash. She refused to give in. Dad couldn't bear it. Let's not have the child starve into illness. Mom was firm. She needs to learn a lesson. Look at what she's become. Don't think I don't know you've been saving food for her. Dad fell silent. He had intentionally left those leftovers. I understood. That was his niece, and it was hard for him to watch Arya starve, so I decided to let the old man see his niece's true face. Soon, our area also lost power, and within half a month into the cold wave, everything outside was completely frozen. I had prepared a generator in advance, so heating and lighting were not a problem, and there was plenty of charcoal fire too. Arya, that good-for-nothing, enjoyed these benefits as well. But good-for-nothings will never be grateful. This time, I was prepared. She couldn't sell our food, she ate poorly and held a grudge, taking advantage of our sleep. She told everyone in the group that our house had electricity, heating, and plenty of food. She even posted a photo of our family's meal to the group. In the past half-month, many families had long run out of food, their eyes green with hunger. She told everyone they could come and pick up food themselves after paying $100,000 per person for unlimited access, until sold out, for a few $100,000 more. They could stay in the house to warm up together through the cold wave. Desperate to survive, people were willing to spend all they had. Soon, they hurriedly queued up to secure a spot, fearing that being slow meant that even money couldn't help them. It seems Arya wasn't brainless, she just preferred to reap where she hadn't sown, exploiting others' labor. If she succeeded, she'd become rich overnight after the cold wave. In the group, people praised her endlessly for her kindness, calling her a living Buddha, while cursing me for being selfish and unconcerned with others' lives. Using incredibly filthy language, they said we all grew up in the same house, yet she was far kinder than us, like night and day. Arya tiptoed out to open the door, only to find the new security door had not only an electronic lock but also 2 big padlocks. Originally, I had installed an extra security door with 2 more locks from the outside to prevent her from opening it from the inside. When she couldn't open the door, the hungry and cold neighbors outside started complaining non-stop and banging on the door. What's the meaning of this? Playing games with us? We've paid. Are you scamming us? Open the door. If you don't open, we'll break it down. You're inside enjoying warmth and food. How can you stand to watch us freeze? Stop wasting words. Just break in. That's right. Just asking for hundreds of thousands. Can't people live without money? Let's just force our way in. Initially trying to unlock the door, Arya was frightened by those people. I could only laugh as I watched from the doorway. What a fool. After half a month of cold and hunger, humanity was long gone. Did she really think people would obediently pay her? Follow her commands, help her teach us a lesson. With her cowardly behavior of betrayal, she still dreamed of ruling in this apocalyptic world. Dream on, stop arguing. Anyone who's paid can come in. Why are you smashing the door? I remember you didn't pay, did you? No smashing allowed. But who would listen to her feeble words? Several men, driven mad by hunger, even resorted to using axes and saws. She screamed in terror, intending to hide back in her room, but as she turned, she saw my parents with grim faces and me, looking cold as ice. My dad, furious, said, "You knew very well we only had enough food at home for a few days, just for our family, and yet you dared to do this. You're just like your parents, ungrateful and treacherous." Indeed, Arya's parents had caused a car accident after running away with a huge amount of gambling debt and money swindled from all their relatives. Our family also got swindled out of all our savings. And yet we had to be magnanimous and take care of this bad seed. We've kept quiet all these years to protect her self-esteem, and she really thought she was doing us a favor. Arya, already feeling guilty, was filled with resentment after hearing my dad's words. "You took our house and money and still mistreat me, now insulting my parents too. You'll get what's coming to you." Hearing this, my dad was completely disappointed with his ungrateful niece. He roared, "Fine, fine. We'll get what's coming to us, now get out." But where would Arya go in this situation? She shamelessly locked herself back in her bedroom like a turtle in its shell. She took the money and kept quiet, leaving the mess for us to clean up. My mother was so frightened she nearly had a heart attack. If these people really broke in, the consequences would be unimaginable, but they couldn't get in. The door was made of a special custom material that axes and saws couldn't breach. I didn't want to be kept up at night worrying about them, so I had to step in and handle it. Facing 2 men wielding axes and saws outside, I shivered with instinctive fear. When Arya first let them into the house, she used me as a scapegoat and humiliated me. They were never good people, notorious even, and the cold wave only brought out the worst in them. This time, I would not let them in. "Stop wasting your energy. You can't break in." I was actually planning to share some food with everyone. I meant to have my cousin distribute it after sorting it out. Who knew she would take money from you all behind our backs? Just go back for now, and once it's sorted, I'll have my cousin deliver it to you. These people, eyes red, neither believing nor willing to leave, were like wild beasts wanting to break in and devour us. 2 fierce men shouted, "Who are you trying to fool?" Took the money and not acknowledging it. "Want to trick us into going back? Think again. Wait till I get in there. I'll kill you too," I coldly told them. "What are you barking for? Idle and causing trouble. Do you even have 10,000 to gather? You haven't paid, so what are you shouting for?" Arya took the money. "It has nothing to do with me. If you want the food, wait for Arya to deliver it. If not, keep smashing." After a while, too cold to endure, they grudgingly retreated, cursing as they went. Once they left, Arya came out of the room, pointing at me and accusing, "Grace, what do you mean? You want to give away the food and have me deliver it. You're just targeting me, trying to get me killed, right? My parents just watched her coldly, not intending to help. I replied coldly, aren't you the one who took the money? Isn't it you who wanted to sell the food? Who else should deliver it if not you? If you don't handle this properly, do you think the neighbors won't beat you to death when they break in? It's all because of you. Now we have to give up our food to stay safe. We don't know how long we can last after sharing the food. Just go after it's done. Arya was not convinced, but suddenly she seemed to agree reluctantly. Fine, I'll deliver it. She must have been scheming something else. I gave my parents a reassuring look, went inside, and moved all the food from the refrigerator and the prepared holiday goods out. Even the sunflower seeds were divided into several portions. Arya, like a looter, supervised next to us, fearing we might hide some food. But she didn't even glance at the dusty entrance to the basement, filled with junk she had thrown in there. Her mind couldn't fathom that there was plenty of food inside. After dividing the food, I kept 3 portions for us, and handed the rest to Arya. Go deliver it. That's all there is. She swiftly took it, wrapped it up tightly, and headed out. Mom and Dad looked skeptical. Can she really be trusted to deliver something so obediently, normally? Asking her to do anything is like asking for her life. We've given all our food away. What will we do when it runs out? I opened the door and intentionally sighed. What else can we do? With all her fuss, they won't leave us alone. Let's just consider it as averting disaster. Throughout our complaints, Arya didn't respond at all, which was uncharacteristic of her fiery personality. It was only when I opened the door that she revealed a malicious and smug smile to us. 2 shadows that had been lurking outside seized the moment to burst in. I calmly smiled and pressed the remote in my hand, instantly electrifying the door. Arya and the 2 men were instantly stunned and fell to the ground. I knew things wouldn't be so simple. Arya really thought she was the only one with a brain. Mom and Dad were terrified, almost out of their souls, and hurriedly helped me throw them out. After closing the door again, they were full of regret. We never should have taken in that troublemaker. Now she's colluding with outsiders to harm us. If it weren't for Grace being cautious, our whole family would have fallen into her trap. I took a deep breath and comforted my parents. The ungrateful wolf is swept out the door. Now we can sleep peacefully. The moment she was thrown out marked the beginning of Arya's nightmare. Those 2 men had known Arya since middle school. They used to go out to smoke, drink, and fight, staying in a hotel room with a bunch of other guys. Although they had lost touch, by a twist of fate, they ended up living in the same neighborhood. Originally, she had deliberately let people in, and today she conspired with them to steal food and take over the house. She thought that finding 2 thugs would save her. Foolish girl, who would care about feelings in times like these. I want to see if, without enough food, those 2 men will let her survive until the cold wave is over. When the 3 outside were woken by the cold, my parents and I were hiding in the room, eating hot pot and sweating from the heat. They cursed loudly from outside the door, but didn't dare to smash it down again. I posted a video in the homeowners group chat of Arya taking the food out, telling everyone she had taken all the food. As for the fact our house still had electricity, I told them it was only solar panels, which Arya had also taken. To make it more believable, we turned off the lights. They had to believe it since they couldn't get in. The group chat exploded, and without waiting for the food, they started searching everywhere for Arya. I informed them about Arya and those men conspiring to rob. I even speculated in the group, they couldn't have taken the food and run, could they? We only had so much food, and we gave it all to them. With food so close yet flown away, how could they let it go? For a bite of life-saving food, every household was armed with kitchen knives and tools searching for Arya and those men. I happily cooked some tripe while my parents hadn't yet recovered from the shock. They couldn't believe the abandoned basement was suddenly full of food. I served them some beef I had stocked up in advance. Don't worry, the cold wave will pass in 3 months. We have enough food. My parents didn't ask how I knew the cold wave would last so long or why I had anticipated and stocked up. They just ate the beef with teary eyes and full of guilt. They felt they hadn't provided enough as parents and instead had to rely on my protection, thinking of all the times they had asked me to yield to Arya. Now they regretted it deeply, but I knew they loved me. It's just that sometimes being too kind isn't a good thing. Like during a cold wave, kindness is useless. Some people in the group had already lost contact, not knowing if they were dead or just out of battery. From those still alive, they learned that they hadn't managed to get the food Arya took. Those 2 ruthless guys had killed several people, and the others, too scared, dared not pursue further. Now the entire building was deadly quiet. The group filled with pleas for help, medicine, and food. My parents, having nothing else to do, sighed as they looked at their phones. Ethan's grandson is only 5 years old. He's got a high fever with no medicine. Maybe he won't make it. I glanced at them indifferently. Think it through. Once you leave this door, it'll be hard to come back. They immediately shut up, scared. I warned them again, you can use your phones, but don't talk in the group chat. If you can't stand looking, then don't. The righteous die first in the apocalypse. You can't be the good guys. These people were not worth mourning, nor did they deserve the food I provided. Even the best neighborhood relations turned into enmities during the 3 months of the cold wave. When my parents starved to death, no one was willing to offer even a bowl of soup. I suffered long periods of abuse and torture. The entire building could hear the wails, but did anyone come to my rescue? In the end, even the bodies were consumed, leaving only me clinging to life. There were even people in the chat group begging for a piece of my flesh, eager to sip a broth made from my meat. Opening the door today would only invite wolves into the house. I'm not risking my safety. My parents understood this too, and simply turned off their phones, ignoring the pitiful messages flooding the group chat. I didn't care. I spent my days browsing the group chats on my phone, enjoying gourmet meals while keeping up with the survivors' updates. Today it's steak, tomorrow seafood, and perhaps a hot pot to spice things up when the mood strikes. Surprisingly, Arya is still alive. Well, it makes sense, considering she took so much food with her. Those two men have rallied several strong men from the building and now they reign supreme. They go door to door searching for food and medicine, quick to brandish knives at the slightest displeasure. But after a month, all the scavenged food was gone. Naturally, a group of men has a large appetite when they want to be fed. Given the chance to find food, they certainly wouldn't touch the stiff corpses, and our family has always been of interest to them. They aren't sure if we're still alive, having checked numerous times. Now with no food left, they start lingering at the door, trying to break in. Damn it, this is your house. How can you not know the password? Outside, Arya's panicked cries, I really don't know. The door was changed by that bitch Grace. Don't hit me. If she's still alive. She's definitely hiding food. We'll surely find something if we get in. The noise outside kept me awake, so I gave them a dose of electrotherapy. Arya exclaimed, see, I told you that bitch is still alive and definitely hiding food. I immediately posted a picture of the hot pot from my phone to the group. You guessed right, I've hidden a lot of food. Too bad, you won't get to enjoy it, choosing instead to suffer with those thugs. With a powered phone in those villains' hands. They saw the message and started beating Arya. Damn it, your family hid so much food, and you only brought out this little. If you can't open this door, tonight I'm making hot pot with you in it. Hearing Arya's cries, I felt incredibly satisfied. Why should I make her life easy? From time to time, I kept posting photos of delicious food in the group chat. These are the meals we've been enjoying these days. I've even gained weight. These photos are enough to torment Arya. Soon she appeared at the door, knocking and wailing. She never cried this hard even when her parents died. Aunt, uncle, cousin, I was wrong. They're going to kill me. Please let me come back home. I won't be reckless again. I won't run away from home again. Please open the door. My parents simply hid in their room, out of sight, out of mind. I went to the door, saw the shadows lurking in the hallway through the monitor, and smirked coldly. As expected, a leopard can't change its spots. I pretended to be soft-hearted. Cousin, if you realize your mistake, I'm not unwilling to let you come back home, but you won't help outsiders harm our family again, right? She glanced in the direction of the hallway, her face swollen and fearful, and nodded frantically. Yes, I won't. I know I was wrong. Please open the door. I believe she truly wants to come home and truly regrets her actions, but under the current circumstances, she also truly wants to betray us all. I deliberately tossed a piece of raw meat from the locked window. I still can't trust you. I can only give you a bit to eat. Arya, not knowing how long she had been hungry, grabbed the raw meat and tried to gnaw on it. The group hiding in the corner, seeing the food, couldn't help but rush out to fight over that piece of meat. Watching them scramble for the raw meat disgusted me. Through the door, I pretended to be angry. Arya, you're deceiving me again. I won't trust you anymore. Arya, who didn't get a bite of the meat, looked utterly desolate, her disfigured face even more grotesque. She pounded on the broken door, cursing, Grace, if you don't save me, you and your family will have no peace. You all bully me. My parents' spirits will never forgive you. Be careful, they might come for you. I chuckled. I don't know if they'll come to settle scores with me, but you'll be reunited with your parents soon enough. She looked at the men fighting viciously over a piece of meat, shrinking in fear. She knew all too well what they would do once they ran out of food and couldn't break down the door. It seemed they had already tasted human flesh, otherwise Arya wouldn't be so terrified of being turned into hot pot ingredients. Indeed, the food they had wouldn't last more than a month. There was still over a month to go. They were in for a tough time. I threw a small chicken out of the door and window while they were scrambling for it, reminding them, the cold wave is far from over, and you'll starve to death if you run out of food. Eat fresh food. You can raise it and eat it slowly. Of course, I wasn't just talking about the chicken. Just like how Arya didn't treat me as a human being back then. They refused to give up on breaking down the door and made a fuss outside for days. Each time, they only stopped when they got electrocuted, and eventually, they exhausted their strength without being able to break in. Every time they failed, they took their anger out on Arya. Initially, they spared her life just to trick us into opening the door, but once they confirmed she was useless, she lost all value. The two men she had chosen eventually turned their knives on her. She screamed in terror like a pig about to be slaughtered. "Have you forgotten who stole food for you? You can't do this to me, let me go. I'll knock on the door again, I can make it, please spare me." 2 months after the cold wave, the building was eerily quiet. Arya's screams occasionally reached us, deliberately made by those people hoping we couldn't stand it and would open the door. I only then realized how desperate my own screams had been back then, but Arya just watched, unwilling to grant me a quick end. A week later, Arya could no longer scream. I opened the small window in the door, and they immediately dragged Arya out for me to see her pitiful state, hoping I would soften and open the door. She was covered in blood, not a spot on her was intact, pitted with holes everywhere. They outnumbered her, and her situation was even worse than mine had been. She wouldn't live much longer. In desperation, Arya looked at me and pleaded, "Kill me, please. Give me a quick end." I sighed with pity and threw out a box of anti-inflammatory and hemostatic medicines. One's body and hair are inherited from one's parents. How can you give up on yourself? Cousin, you must hang in there. I'm doing this for your own good. You can survive if you just get through the cold wave. Arya's face twisted with resentment. "Grace, you bitch, I hate you. I will kill you." Wasn't I doing it for her good? Why was she angry? I was merely returning the words she had said to me. Why was she upset? I even gave her 2 boxes of medicine. It turned out to be her bad luck. She didn't survive the cold wave, nor did she live as long as I did. She died within half a month, wasting my 2 boxes of medicine. There was still half a month left, and those villains could have barely made it through the cold wave with Arya's help. But they didn't know that and began to frantically kill each other just to get a bit more food. It must be said that those 2 villains were truly evil, surviving until the end. Every day after eating, they would circle my door like zombies, then shrink back when they got too cold. Unfortunately, they never managed to break down my door. By the time the cold wave ended, communications slowly resumed, and rescue operations gradually began. When they were finally rescued, those 2 villains cried loudly. They put on a victim's guise, looking quite innocent, when the rescue team knocked on my door. They were very surprised that my family was still alive. I told them that we just happened to have stored up some New Year's goods by chance, which was why we were lucky enough to survive. As for fortifying the doors and windows, that wasn't illegal. Facing robbers at the door, not opening it wasn't illegal either. And about Arya, she had hoarded the food I allocated for the neighbors and ran off, even trying to conspire with others against her own family. I expressed my regret over her fate. I also provided a surveillance video to them. The 2 villains' acts of violence outside the door were all captured on camera. They thought they could escape the natural disaster and return to a normal life with donations. But why should they? They only deserve to live with that unbearable memory, waiting for justice to be served. Unfortunately, they couldn't wait for justice. Overwhelmed by their mental breakdown, they committed suicide. It was said they bit off their own flesh and died from excessive blood loss. On TV, a news segment showed a second-generation wealthy philanthropist donating a significant amount of money. There were also praises for those who helped others during the cold wave, creating a harmonious atmosphere. This time, there was no place for Arya beside the wealthy philanthropist. Instead, she was replaced by a similarly generous and beautiful woman. Yes, she looked much more pleasant to the eye. Story 2. Apocalypse arrived, and the true heiress, flanked by her bodyguards, locked our family in the basement. She and her family took up residence in the small supermarket that belonged to my family. Despite our desperate pleas, my parents and I couldn't even obtain a morsel of food from them. When the zombie horde attacked, the heiress and her family pushed us out to feed the zombies in order to save themselves. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day the true heiress was taken back home by her parents. Lorna barged into our family's supermarket with a group of bodyguards, and without a word, flipped the dining table where my family was having a meal. My parents, who had cherished their daughter cautiously for 18 years, were now being fiercely glared at by her. "How can you still have the nerve to eat and drink when everything outside is in chaos?" Lorna demanded as she reached out her hand towards my dad. "Give me the keys to the supermarket." My dad, who had always been kind to Lorna, was at a loss but handed over the keys since Lorna insisted. With the keys in hand, Lorna snorted. "At least you're sensible, Dad. What's going on? Has Lorna's family treated you badly?" My dad asked nervously, rubbing his hands in front of Lorna. Lorna glanced at my dad and said lightly, "Lorna's family treats me very well, better than you ever did. Look, I've only been home a few months and haven't I become much fairer and chubbier? You run such a big supermarket but never spent any money to dress me up." My mom's eyes welled up with tears as Lorna spoke. "Dear, your dad and I have never wronged you," Lorna screamed and stood up. "You are not my parents. Stop pretending to love me." She quickly left the store and got into a car. I couldn't stand Lorna's pretentious behavior. If my parents were really bad to her, that would be one thing, but from what I've observed since I've been home, my parents are hardworking, honest people. Not only do they maintain good relations with the neighbors, but there is also nothing to fault in their conduct. Although our family isn't particularly poor, we're certainly not wealthy. Our family's supermarket, located next to the bus station in the county town, may not be large, but it has everything needed. The supermarket is our family's everyday home. There's a second-floor attic above the supermarket where they live. I couldn't understand what Lorna was up to, but I remained cautious. I tried asking around on social media, but unfortunately, nobody replied to my messages. That's how it is in high society. So-called friends are only interested when you have substantial wealth. Friendships can end in an instant. People without any value to offer are treated as less than nothing. I sighed, feeling something was amiss. Today, the normally quiet small town saw several luxury cars coming and going. Moreover, even the people who usually shop at our supermarket were strangers. They bought in bulk, loads of grains, oils, and other storable supplies. A voice in my head told me that something big was about to happen. I immediately told my parents to close the shop and stop selling goods. My parents had sold more goods today than in several months combined and were overjoyed, but seeing my serious expression, they didn't ask questions and closed the shop as I suggested. I took a deep breath and patiently explained to them, "I have a bad feeling about this. There were many strangers today, and lots of luxury cars. The goods they bought suggest they might be planning to stay for a long while." My parents nodded in agreement. "Dorothy, you've seen more of the world and know more. We'll listen to you. After all, making money isn't urgent at this moment." I felt a warm surge of trust and love slowly filling my heart. Later that night, Lorna swaggered into the supermarket, keys in hand. A month after being kicked out, I saw my foster parents again. The look they gave me carried a hint of disdain. "After all, we've raised you for 18 years. If you could just treat your sister well, there'd be room for you at home." Facing their hypocritical expressions, I couldn't help but smirk. "Why are you here in the middle of the night, leaving your nice villa empty?" Lorna suddenly burst out, loudly interrupting me. "Have you no manners? After Mom and Dad have worked so hard to raise you for 18 years, is this how you speak to them? And what's this about it being your house? This house was left to me by my foster father as compensation." I stared in disbelief at Lorna's blatant lying. My parents, awakened by the noise, stumbled out, bleary-eyed. "What's going on here?" Lorna's eyes welled up. "Wasn't this house supposed to be left to me? Isn't this your compensation for mistreating me? Otherwise, why would I have the keys?" Lorna turned to look at her parents. Seeing Lorna in tears, her parents softened and started shouting to throw us out, but before they could act, a sharp scream pierced the air outside. Lorna's father quickly pulled down our house's shutter as heart-wrenching cries echoed from the empty street. "Murder! Murder! Help! Can someone save me?" Lorna was so frightened she could barely stand, covering her ears in panic. "What do we do? The zombie outbreak is real." I glanced out the window, where the woman who had been attacked was now motionless. Within a minute, she staggered to her feet. Even with her stomach torn open, she stood as if resurrected and started walking towards our supermarket. "Turn off the lights," I yelled. Lorna's father, from a high position, quickly ran to turn off the main power switch. The house plunged into darkness. I drew the curtains and my parents lit some candles on the shelves. That's when I had time to consider what Lorna had said. Zombies. The M-Country's lab was breached by humans. I overheard it at a banquet, but by then it was too late to fortify our house, and almost everyone who was unprepared drove to the countryside or less populated areas. Lorna's father, exhausted, took off his clothes and sat down. Thankfully, we made it. My parents didn't say much about their sudden visit, perhaps because Lorna's family had indeed raised me well. The 6 of us settled into the cramped house. As the situation outside worsened and the infected numbers grew, we dared not make a sound. 2 weeks into the zombie outbreak, we lost power and water. Had it not been for the small supermarket we run, we probably wouldn't have survived even a month. After dinner one night, I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I found my parents and I locked in the basement downstairs. No matter how much we shouted, no one responded. After what seemed like days without the strength to even move, Lorna finally came down, her mouth greasy from food, her malicious nature restored. "This damn apocalypse, who knows when it will end? The food in the store is running out, and I don't intend to share it with others. You won't die unjustly, one cuckoo taking over the nest, making me suffer for 18 years, the other 2 So poor that, he wouldn't even buy me a bag, she lamented. Why have children if you can't afford them? Just die. I don't know how much time passed, but eventually, my parents and I were carried out by Lorna's family and thrown into a crowd of zombies. We had already become so thin, just skin and bones, that the zombies only nibbled on us a bit before turning away. Indeed, even the zombies weren't interested in us. I thought to myself with self-mockery, and then I lost consciousness. I was reborn. Dorothy, come meet your future sister, my foster father said cheerfully as he pushed a pale, thin girl in front of me. I had always known that I wasn't their biological child. Now that their real daughter had returned, I naturally had to give back her place in my previous life. I didn't talk much. Instead, I went back to my room to pack my bags. Seeing this, Lorna couldn't stop crying. She threw herself at the feet of my foster parents, sobbing, "Does sister dislike me? Maybe I should just go home and not bother her anymore." A few words were enough to make my foster parents impatient to kick me out of the house. This time, Lorna indeed started crying in front of me. I quickly cradled her face, carefully wiping away her tears, then under our parents' watchful eyes, I gently took her hand and led her to my closet. "These clothes are all yours now. What else do you like? I'll take you shopping at the mall in a bit." Seeing Lorna's stunned expression, her mother handed me a bank card. Without thinking, I took the card. "Mom, don't worry. I'll make sure to take my sister shopping at the mall. I'll buy her everything she likes." I took Lorna to the mall, and after visiting a few luxury stores, we went to look at furniture. "I heard Dad bought you an apartment. Is there anything you like? We can buy it today." After saying this, I nervously covered my mouth and looked at Lorna. "You must not tell Mom and Dad. They wanted to keep it a secret from you. Pretend you don't know." "Okay," Lorna nodded, and together we bought many home appliances. We even selected the furniture. I smirked and filled in an address in a high-end residential area. After dealing with Lorna, I hurriedly took a taxi to meet my biological parents in my previous life. We lived miserably. This time, I would not let history repeat itself. They started crying as soon as they saw me. Just as I was about to speak, my dad said, "Dorothy, your mom and I are thinking of selling the supermarket. How about we move somewhere nobody knows us?" I was thrilled. Perhaps they had also been reborn. After all, in my previous life, I had suggested they move. But they didn't want to leave because of their attachment to the neighbors and the memories. "Dad, do you know something?" I asked. Tears welled up in his eyes as he gently patted my hand. "I'm sorry, I didn't protect you well. Listen, the world is about to change." I quickly interrupted him. "I've been reborn too, Dad." I later found out that my entire family had been reborn. The day I came back, I had used my savings to rent a house in a villa area, home to many from the entertainment industry, with good security and privacy. For the next few days, I took Lorna out shopping, satisfying not just her vanity but mine as well. I was responsible for the purchases, and my parents handled the logistics. We lived peacefully for several days, and I gradually let go of my worries, but I didn't expect things to go awry. That night, after organizing a small portion of supplies at the villa, I was ready to head back to Lorna's family's place. As soon as I entered their home, I saw the three of them standing there, arms crossed, all staring at me in unison. I had a bad feeling inside, but I still braced myself and walked in. "Mom, Dad, why haven't you gone to bed yet?" Lorna's father snorted coldly. "I was unaware that you have been doing all these things behind our backs." Lorna chimed in. "Yeah, sis, if you don't like me, just say it. Why did you have to take away the things I like?" Hearing this, I felt a bit relieved and looked up at her, puzzled. "When did I ever take your things?" Lorna's mother showed me her phone. "You've been quite close with that young man recently, haven't you? How could you keep such important matters from your parents?" Lorna's mother gently patted my shoulder. "I know you and Andy have grown up together like childhood sweethearts, but now," she glanced at her obedient daughter sitting next to her, then back at me. "After all, the person engaged to be married is our daughter Lorna, who is now back home. The marriage alliance should rightfully involve Lorna." Relieved, I quickly reassured Lorna's parents. "Mom, Dad, rest assured. Although Andy and I grew up together, we've never really seen each other in that way. Even if the sky fell, Andy and I would not end up together. Tell your sister not to worry. Andy doesn't have a girlfriend. If she likes him, she should pursue him." Lorna looked at me resentfully. "Then why do you hang around Andy if you don't like him? You even asked him out for meals. I can't even get a date with him." Getting close to Andy was, of course, to secure supplies for turning the villa I rented into a fortress for the apocalypse. But how could I possibly tell them that? So I told a lie. "Little sister might not know, but actually, Andy has been wanting to ask you out for a meal for a while now. He's been meeting with me just to find out what you like. In a few days, he'll probably ask you out himself." Lorna was thrilled to hear this, and seeing her so happy, Lorna's parents also showed rare smiles. When Lorna's parents were happy, So was I. After Lorna went back to her room, Lorna's mother stayed behind to talk to me. She patted my shoulder approvingly. "Dorothy, you handled that very well. True to how we raised you, you really have the knack for this." Lorna's mother handed me a bank card. "Your sister has been used to tough times since she was little and lacks a sense of security. Try to spend more time with her, and here's some pocket money from Mom. Don't forget to buy some things you like as well." I took the bank card, nodding repeatedly to assure Lorna's mother. I went back to my room with the bank card and immediately transferred a deposit to Andy. It felt like the heavens were literally raining coins on me. "I want all materials to be explosion-proof, of the highest security level, install an electric grid outside the villa, and reinforce the gates and walls." Andy quickly replied, "Don't worry. Their family is very reliable." Calculating the days. There were less than 2 weeks left until the zombie outbreak. I had listed my parents' house on a second-hand platform for sale, but since it was located in a small town, hardly anyone called to inquire. People in town were all thinking of moving out, while those outside wanted to come home but couldn't. This made my parents very anxious, and I had to reassure them, "Don't worry, Mom and Dad, once news of the zombie outbreak spreads, rich people will naturally come to buy the house. By then, we might even make a hefty profit." Nearly half of the goods from our family's supermarket had been moved to the villa, and I had cleared several shelves, leaving only a few to maintain appearances. The appliances bought earlier from the mall, like refrigerators, air conditioners, generators, and drones, had all been installed at the villa. During the day, my parents sold goods in the supermarket, and at night, they helped me organize the supplies we had bought back at the villa. I hadn't touched the second and third floors of the villa. When renting, everything remains as is. I transformed the door leading from the first floor to the basement into a hidden door. The basement was remodeled into a bedroom and a storage room. After all, in our previous life, we encountered a horde of zombies before our demise. If zombies really could traverse thousands of miles and break through homes, then the basement is undoubtedly the safest place. I spent every day ordering supplies online, transporting them, and organizing them. I was incredibly busy. Meanwhile, Lorna was preoccupied with meeting up with her beloved brother Andy and didn't have time to bother me. Days passed by just like that. Until one evening when I came home and happened to run into Lorna's family packing their bags. "What's going on, Mom, Dad?" Lorna's father looked at me strangely and said, "It's nothing. Lorna just wants to go out and play, and we're helping her pack." The whole family looked as if they were fleeing from something, but I decided to turn a blind eye. "Are you going too, sister?" Lorna deliberately got close to annoy me. I usually avoid her, so there was no way I would go with her. She asked, knowing the answer already. I repeatedly stepped back, waving my hands. "No, I won't go. You guys go ahead." Lorna nodded in satisfaction and continued back to her room to pack. After returning to my room, I was a bit puzzled. If they had known the news this early in the previous life, how could they not have time to prepare? But a thought quietly emerged in my mind. They were really just packing luggage to prepare for going out. The next day, the family of 3 leisurely left with their luggage. Seeing the empty villa, I also started to pack my bags to flee. While I was packing, the family of 3 came back with their luggage. "What happened? Why did you suddenly come back?" I walked out of the house and saw the panicked expressions on their faces. "Where are you going?" Lorna's father looked up at me. "I saw that you all were not home, so I also planned to go out traveling." Lorna's father rubbed his forehead. "It's not very safe outside recently, you." Before he could finish, Lorna tugged at his sleeve. Lorna's father looked at her in surprise, and Lorna smiled brightly. "Sister, Dad's just teasing you. Go out and have fun. Don't forget to bring us some souvenirs." I also smiled and nodded, giving Lorna a discreet glare. Some people can't hide their feelings. Their dislike is evident on their faces. If that's the case, then I wish you an early demise. That afternoon, Lorna ran to my parents' small supermarket. Unlike the previous life, this time she pitifully knelt in front of my parents, complaining about how her parents mistreated her and starved her. If my parents hadn't been reborn, they might have been moved to tears. Unfortunately, Lorna's tactic wasn't very effective this time, but my parents still followed my advice and handed the keys to the supermarket to Lorna. Lorna grabbed the keys and ran off. There was 1 day left until the apocalypse. Since I used the excuse of going out on a trip to leave Lorna's family, I moved to a villa to live with my parents. We had nearly cleared out the supermarket shelves. We left only some useless household items there. Sure enough, that night, my parents received a call from Lorna. "Where did you all go?" Lorna cried frantically on the phone. "Where did you put all the food and water from home?" Seeing that my parents remained silent, Lorna seemed to realize something. Suddenly, her tone softened. Woo woo woo, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, I miss you so much. Can you bring some food and water to the store to see me? I'm so hungry, please. At my cue, my parents repeated the lines I had prepared for them. Lorna, don't cry, Mom and Dad are on their way back with food. Just wait for us, they said. Lorna, through her tears, managed a smile and a nod before hanging up the phone after the call. I couldn't wait to check the home surveillance and saw Lorna's family looking out the window with somber faces. The zombie outbreak started late at night, and it was almost time. Lorna's family was still incessantly complaining. Lorna's mother walked past several shelves. Look what this store has left. Towels, slippers, not a bit of food or water. How are we supposed to survive? Lorna's father also looked dissatisfied at Lorna. Didn't you say these poor folks had a lot of food at home? Enough for our family to live on for several years. Lorna, at a loss, shook her pale little face gently. Mom, Dad, it's not like that. You've misunderstood Lorna. Lorna didn't expect things to turn out this way. Once they come back, we'll have something to eat, then we can send them out to gather more supplies. I remember there's a storage room here. It definitely has food and water. Meanwhile, my parents were furious. My mom sat in a chair nearby, wiping away tears. We raised Lorna with all our hearts, and it turns out we raised an ingrate, and then there's you, Dorothy, with whom we had no real ties, and we never raised you, yet you show such filial piety. I couldn't help but tear up. Blood is thicker than water. After all, I can see who truly cares. During the years with Lorna's family, though her parents never mistreated me, they were extremely strict about my education. From as early as I can remember, I was enrolled in various training classes. Every day I had to learn various skills. When Lorna's family parents attended banquets, they took me along to perform for the guests. A good performance would earn me praise. A poor performance would leave me facing endless darkness. As a child, I longed for the company of Lorna's family parents, but we actually didn't spend much time together. Most of the time, it was just me and the servants in the mansion. As I grew older, they started restricting my social interactions. I could only associate with people they approved of. I couldn't make friends on my own, so when I found out I wasn't their biological child, I felt a strange sense of relief. So the first time I met Lorna, I was eager to leave Lorna's family. In front of us, Lorna would cry and complain about how terribly my biological parents treated her. At the time, I even resented my biological parents. Lorna was dark and thin, like a little monkey, clearly looking malnourished. Only after meeting my biological parents did I realize they had never mistreated her. Her thinness was due to her obsession with dieting, and her dark skin was from hanging out in the streets with friends, getting sunburned. It wasn't that her parents didn't give her spending money, but she always chased after luxury items, wanting to buy expensive bags and cosmetics. Whenever her parents didn't meet her demands, she would throw a fit and hang out with those friends. Over time, her parents couldn't handle her and indeed couldn't control her. This time, finding out that Lorna's family corporation was her own family likely fulfilled her wishes, so she did everything to please Lorna's family parents, even to the extent of forcing our family into the basement to save Lorna's family parents' lives. At the moment, Lorna was still cursively blaming us. Perhaps because she was a bit hungry, she pulled out some snacks from her bag, prepared in advance, and started eating on the floor. They waited until late at night, but Lorna's family never saw us coming with the food. That's when they finally remembered me, far away. When Lorna heard this, her eyes brightened. Yes, indeed, how could I forget about Dorothy? Lorna's eyes twinkled with malice. She's been squatting in our nest for so many years. Now it's time she repaid us. As she spoke, my phone began to ring. Answering the call, I was greeted by Lorna's father's insincere voice. Dorothy dear, how have you been enjoying yourself lately? I hear the times are troubled. You should hurry back home. Your mom, dad, and sister are all worried about you. When you come back, could you stop by the supermarket and pick up some supplies? We're running low on everything here. I curled my lips into a smile, feigning urgency. Don't worry about me. I'll bring supplies home. Lorna's father sent me the address, his tone much softened. I'll be home soon. I just got off the plane. You called just at the right time, Dad. Upon hearing that I would be home soon, Lorna's family couldn't stop smiling. Good child, we can always rely on you at crucial times. He hung up the phone contentedly, not noticing Lorna's increasingly gloomy face on the side. After hanging up, I checked the time. It was almost right to deliver them a big surprise. I called the person who bought our house. Mr. Jorge, we've packed our bags and left the supermarket. You can move in now. The other side seemed impatient as well, and upon hearing I had left, they immediately prepared to leave. In fact, a few days ago, a mysterious tycoon reached out to me after his assistant saw that my house was for sale, urgently needing a place to store supplies. Without a second word, he transferred a deposit to me, and after viewing the house, He immediately paid the full amount. During this time, he also continuously stored food and other supplies in our warehouse. Jorge is a good man. He even called to advise me to prepare enough food to last a year. He wasn't in a hurry for me to move out immediately but said he was willing to give me a few days. However, I had to move out completely by November 10th. I nodded in agreement. November 11th was the day the zombie outbreak was set to occur. Within half an hour, Mr. Jorge's car was already at our house's supermarket entrance. Upon hearing the roar of the car engine, Lorna jumped up from the ground excitedly. Great, maybe it's Dorothy and those two paupers coming together. Lorna's parents also stood up excitedly. Without a second thought, Lorna quickly opened the supermarket's rolling door, eagerly looking outside. Their eyes met. All was silent. Mr. Jorge even took a few steps back and looked up at the sign hanging at the supermarket entrance. He confirmed it was the safe place he had purchased. He hadn't made a mistake. Who are you? Jorge asked warily, eyeing Lorna and her parents. Lorna immediately became tense, her tone unfriendly as she eyed Jorge. And who are you? Why are you at my house? What do you want? Jorge, not one to be easily intimidated, his expression darkened upon hearing Lorna's tone. This is my house now, and I want to know why you are trespassing. Believe me, I will call the police, Lorna scoffed. Go ahead and call them, see if the police have time for this trivial matter right now. Lorna rolled her eyes at Jorge and turned to shut the door. Fortunately, Jorge reacted quickly. Two bodyguards immediately leaped out from behind him, blocking Lorna's move to throw her out. I bought this house with my money. It's my home now. The name on the property deed is mine. I am the rightful owner of this house. I don't know who you are, but the original owner called me to say she had moved out. I advise you to leave my house immediately, or I will make sure you regret it. Lorna might have been inexperienced, but that didn't mean Lorna's parents were too. They stood behind, staring blankly at Jorge for a few moments, then suddenly recognized who he was. Though they had never met him in real life, they had often seen his face on television. Jorge is a highly influential figure in the finance industry. As soon as Lorna's parents saw him, they approached him immediately. Hello, Mr. Jorge. We're terribly sorry. Our daughter has been separated from us since she was very young and we have only just found her, so she's quite wary of strangers. Please don't take it personally, there might have been some misunderstanding. I was just curious about where you purchased this house. Jorge snorted coldly. I bought it from Dorothy. She was the true owner of this house. I'm not familiar with your family matters, but I would advise you to leave my property immediately. With that, Jorge issued his final command. Suddenly, Lorna burst out, "This is my house. Can you stop spouting nonsense?" No sooner had she spoken than her father quickly stepped forward and slapped her hard across the face. "How dare you speak to Mr. Jorge like that? You're completely uncultured. If only Dorothy were here, she certainly wouldn't be as disrespectful as you are." Just then, a woman's piercing scream echoed from the desolate street outside, crying for help. Without hesitation, two bodyguards quickly rolled down the shutter doors and locked the main door from inside. Seeing this, Jorge hurriedly turned off all the lights in the house. Terrified, Lorna stumbled and fell to the ground. Jorge glanced at the three intruders who had claimed his nest and still wanted his bodyguards to throw them out. "This is my house. I don't want strangers here. I don't know you. Your presence could be dangerous to me." Upon hearing this, Lorna and her parents' expressions changed drastically as they desperately pleaded on their knees for Jorge to spare them. Although Jorge had lived abroad since childhood, he was still Chinese at heart and was somewhat moved by the scene. He couldn't bring himself to harm his compatriots, so he called me. "I don't know you, but I know Dorothy is a good girl." As soon as Jorge finished speaking, my phone rang with his inquiry on how to handle Lorna and her family. Thinking back to their deeds against me and my biological parents in their past lives, I said, "Lock them in the basement without food or water, let them survive as long as they can. I'm worried they might harm you if they stay with you." Upon hearing this, Lorna cursed me furiously. "How dare you accuse us? You're the despicable one here." Lorna tried to grab Jorge's phone to yell at me but was stopped by Jorge's bodyguards. Watching the frustrated Lorna on the surveillance, I added fuel to the fire. "You probably don't know yet, but I've been aware of the zombie outbreak for a while, so my parents and I are safe and sound, enjoying hot pot in a secure place. With your venomous lies, who knows how long you'll survive." Eventually, Lorna and her family were locked in the basement. Later, Jorge asked me what should be done with them, and I sighed. Just send them some food and water periodically. During the first week of the zombie outbreak, we lived peacefully at home. The security in our neighborhood is excellent. Since the outbreak began, I haven't seen any zombies, nor any other living people. I'm not sure what it's like outside, and the internet connection has deteriorated, making it hard to get updates. Social media platforms like YouTube have crashed and can't be accessed at all. Amidst my idle days, Jorge called me again. Your foster parents and your sister are fighting. Hearing this, I immediately checked the home surveillance cameras, which were glitchy but still showed Lorna's father pinning her down and beating her. I instructed Jorge to hand the phone to Lorna's father and also wanted to discuss some matters with him. Jorge sent a bodyguard to deliver the phone. As Lorna's father picked up the phone, his eyes reddened upon hearing my voice. With a trembling voice, he said, "Dorothy, Dad is sorry for what he did to you. Can you come and save your father from your damn sister? I'll make sure she pays for this." Hearing Lorna's father's voice, I couldn't help but smile. "Let me send you another gift, Lorna." I played the recording of Lorna accusing her family in front of my parents. Upon hearing it, Lorna's father grabbed a stool nearby and smashed it on Lorna's head. The scene became uncontrollable. "You ingrate, I've provided for you since I took you in, and you dare to tarnish my name like this. If it wasn't for you, Dorothy and I, along with our child, would be sitting comfortably in a villa, enjoying the air conditioning. It's all because of you. Today, as your father, I will end you." Lorna's father exploded in rage. Chasing after Lorna to hit her, Lorna fought back. "You just love Dorothy. No matter what I do, I can never compare to her. Then all of you might as well die." Out of nowhere, Lorna pulled out a knife and slashed at her father. Lorna's mother, too scared to intervene, just watched. When the two finally exhausted themselves, Lorna was sprawled on the floor, unable to move. Only then did Lorna's mother, still on the phone with me, come to her senses. She softened her tone. "Dorothy, it's Mom. Can you help me get out of here? All of Lorna's family's fortune will be yours. Mom really misses you. What use do I have for money now? Staying alive is what's most important." I scoffed at myself, thinking, if I had known this would happen, why did I ever bother? I ruthlessly hung up the phone. Because of Lorna's severe injuries, and her father's lack of strength, the family of 3 collapsed in the basement, in the middle of the night. Somehow, Lorna managed to escape the basement, luckily. I was still awake and saw it on the surveillance camera, so I quickly called Jorge. Lorna violently opened the roller door, her noise echoing loudly on the desolate street. A horde of zombies ran towards her, and Lorna's father, from somewhere behind her, pushed her out. Lorna's mother, somewhat delirious by then, was also thrown out by Lorna's father, just as he was about to close the roller door. The arriving bodyguard pushed Lorna's father out as well, then he securely closed the door. Screams of agony could be heard from outside. None of the family survived. In the end, their fate was a result of their own actions. The second week of the zombie outbreak, just like in the previous life, there was no water or electricity. Half a year after the outbreak, the government announced new news. A zombie vaccine had been developed, and all survivors would be relocated to a safe zone. A month later, under military escort, our family finally stepped out of our home again. This moment marked not just a new beginning for our family, but a rebirth for the entire nation.